Headline, yes, this would be the biggest embassy in Europe if approved, if Starmer bows down to Beijing, as these protesters are saying. Behind me you can see nobody wants this.
No depression at borders! We know that we have to stand up to the abuses of China. And what worries me is that we have a government right now that seems to be scared of China.
What are you doing here at the protest? That's an interesting sign you've got there. Clearly you're not a fan of our Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Why is that?
He's kowtowing to the Chinese government, right? A dictator regime.
Robert Jenrick defected to Reform yesterday. He called the Conservative Party and Kemi Badenoch a leader with no backbone. She's obviously shown up here today and done a speech. It's kind of unprecedented to have that sort of flagrant support. What did you think about her speech and her backing this?
I think any party backing our cause, like going against the building of the embassy, I'd say we welcome them.
Why are you here today?
So I'm Tibetan and I'm here to oppose the Chinese mega embassy being built here. Unfortunately, we think the UK government might allow this to happen, and I think it sends the wrong message to people who have been oppressed by the Chinese government, who are still being continuously oppressed in free countries. There are lots of Chinese decisions which are being followed by Chinese police states.
Now, we know that there are plainclothes Chinese policemen potentially in the crowd, so a lot of them want to stay anonymous, which is very understandable. Why are you here today?
Because it's very simple. It's no mega embassy, and it is absolutely unacceptable because this is a very peak area, and I don't think any one of the country they will have choose one of the peak area, prime area, and make it to their one of the I think it's the biggest embassy in Europe. So this is absolutely unacceptable.
This government is engaging with China confidently and pragmatically and challenging them where we need to. Because for our security...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side, this is Talk.
A very good morning to you. Just gone 6 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. It's the home of working Brits, of alarm clock Brits. It's the home of the people who come here to have their say. Welcome to Wednesday, the 4th of February. You'd have imagined the stories would have gone away about Mandelson and Andrew, but no, my friends, they haven't. If you want to get that voice note in nice and early to Christian, who's in the same grey jumper as yesterday, 0344 499 1000, 0344 499 1000. Be great to hear from you this morning. You can text us 87222. Start your message with the word talk. And just to point out, any technical difficulties this morning will be laid at the feet of Big Dave, who's arrived with a walking stick. He's sort of my idea of care in the community, but he's been given the job for the morning, so any mistakes technically, write to Big Dave, care of Talk. And we're delighted to say a very good morning in a sec to our favourite paper reviewer, Poppy Coburn, but let's just nail it, shall we? Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been booted out of Royal Lodge. His 30 million, 31-bedroomed hovel that I used to live next to, it became a hovel, under cover of darkness. This was Monday night, to begin a life in exile as the police assess the latest news. There's an allegation overnight that a girl, a young Russian girl, we believe, was trafficked all the way to England so that he could have his wicked way. Extraordinary. That, by the way, all over the front of the Sun this morning, the Princes of Darkness. That is a jailable offence. There's increasing pressure on him to open his gob. We'll get all the latest this morning from Kinsey Schofield this hour. We've got Andrew Lowney as well on the show today talking about this. It's an extraordinary story. The royal family reeling. I mean, there is email after photo. It's extraordinary. And, of course, the other Prince of Darkness, who I absolutely don't care when I say this, Peter Mandelson will go to jail. That is my humble opinion. He faces a criminal investigation. Forget that yesterday, OK, he resigned from the Lords. Forget that he resigned from the Labour Party. The game's up, Mandelson. If you are, a criminal investigation for, and I quote, leaking financial secrets from the government, right, from Whitehall to Jeffrey Epstein whilst he was a cabinet minister. That is jail time, in his underpants or not. PMQs will be fun today, by the way, with Julia. The PM, sorry, got to get there with Starmer. Are you telling me you had no idea about Mandelson? Or are you telling me, like most other people in the Labour Party, that he's probably got that much on you that he got away with being a what's-it for as long as he did? And it's not going to get any better for Keir Starmer, because today could be quite, I don't say a record-breaking day. He is literally one boat away from claiming Britain's worst ever small boats record. So far, 65,703 boats. Migrants have arrived on his watch in just 18 months, one shy of the appalling figure that Bojo sorted. There's the migrant tracker, one away from being the worst Prime Minister to deal with this problems. We'll also look at a great article. We might get to speak to him as well. We're trying. Nigel Farage says yesterday, big press conference, he will save the British pub by cutting benefits. Too many people on welfare. Our supporter Samara Gill was with Nigel at the pub yesterday. We'll do all of that. 6 minutes past 6. A very good morning. Get the calls in. We say, welcome back from your hike in South Wales, Poppy Coburn.
Hello, and I heard much about your holiday in Portugal, where apparently it rained even more than it did for me in Wales.
Did you have a good time?
It was fantastic.
How far did you... I thought of you walking up and down the mountains as I was traipsing up and down the fairways with my son looking like rubbish.
Well, you know, my phone has a really funny feature where it won't tell you how high up you've gone, but it will tell how many flights of stairs you've climbed. So one day it said I climbed 150 flights of stairs.
Did you feel knackered, or was it good health-wise?
I think it was pretty good health-wise. I mean, I didn't really drink out there.
Did you not?
No, it was just climbing out in nature, getting rained on.
So she's been walking, she hasn't been drinking, her partner's away, but she's ready to go. And can I just say, I don't want any text messages this morning saying, dear Poppy, so lovely to see you. Poppy, just because honestly it winds me up. 87222. Andrew Mandelson, front of the Sun, the Princes of Darkness. It is literally there. Let's start with Mandelson. Let's start with Mandelson if we can. Damning evidence. This guy has got away with this for years, hasn't he?
I think that the disgrace of this is that you can look at two things about the Labour Party when they're in really deep scandal. One in 97 with the Cash for Honours scandal that originally hits them, and then this one, because I think this is going to be absolutely massive. And it involves the same person each time, Peter Mandelson. How has this person continued to re-enter politics again and again and again and again? How many headlines have said Mandelson resigns in disgrace at this point? 4, 5?
Well, let's just lay it out. We did this yesterday, which I think is really interesting. Sacked initially for a dodgy loan from Geoffrey Robinson, a fellow MP, for a fraudulent mortgage. Brought back by Blair, sacked as Northern Ireland Secretary for getting dodgy passports for rich Indian benefactors. Somehow brought back into Gordon Brown's cabinet, who, by the way, has gone nuts overnight and has contacted the Metropolitan Police and said that he believes that Labour HQ, number 10, have covered up what Mandelson did. Now, I mean, there you then got our Prime Minister. I mean, it's extraordinary. And you're right, the only assumption you would have about the man that is soon not to be Lord Mandelson is that he must have a whole bag on all of them. He must do. He must know where the bodies are buried.
Well, that or they're stupid, you know. And sometimes you have to... I mean, I think with Gordon Brown, when he initially brought him back, it was supposed to be a sign of reconciliation. Like, look, this is someone I clearly didn't like, but, you know, he was desperate, he was so unpopular at the time. It's kind of like his trump card. I'm not surprised he's to be the one that called the police on Peter Mandelson, to be honest with you. He's obsessed with his legacy. And can you think of something that hurts your legacy more than these headlines? But, you know... And
I just want to say, actually, I'm not a fan of Gordon Brown's politics. But I absolutely stand with him this morning because I think he would. He was so. This is so against, and I think you're absolutely right. Listen straight away, Tony. Hi, Poppy. Brilliant. Did Two-Tier Keir receive an intelligence service briefing regarding Mandelson, and did he disregard some information? We need to know absolutely instantly. And how would you allow one of the most prestigious jobs, UK ambassador to the US?
Well, this is why it's so disgusting, right? Because Partygate brought down a Prime Minister. And it was a story around whether or not people were eating a cake in a room when the pandemic was happening. Okay, that was enough to bring down a sitting Prime Minister. How can Keir stay in his job after this? Because we know that he must have known something about Mandelson, because Morgan McSweeney was like this with him. He was incredibly tight with him. We know
if you're watching on the radio, listening on the radio, she's put both fingers together. That just obviously that didn't work on the radio. It's just got if you know, they were like this.
You can imagine they're having a clinch together if you want, but they're incredibly close.
Yeah.
Morgan McSweeney's de facto running number 10 at the moment, and he has been for quite a long time. So it goes right to the top that he was the one that was pushing for Peter Mandelson to be put in this post. Now, they were briefing that Peter Mandelson would have been the Trump whisperer that was really popular within the US administration. There was no basis for that whatsoever. I know, because when I was there for the inauguration, I spoke to someone at the British Embassy who had said that it was a terrible idea to bring in Peter Mandelson because all the Americans thought he was disgusting. Because they already back then, they knew about the Epstein relations stuff. They didn't want to be anywhere near someone that had that kind of stench on them. It's like saying that Prince Andrew's coming back as a trade envoy.
Yeah, well, we'll get on to that.
You know,
I mean, I think I like this from Sean. Normal people are far beyond the point of having enough of this scandalous, ideological, useless party. There's just lies, lies, lies. Yeah. They need to go. I mean, you're absolutely right. This is a man, Keir Starmer, and we have to talk about his judgment. This is a man who admits that he was deliberately not listened to the security services over the Chinese embassy. A man who purports to care about human rights, gives away the Chagos, worries about Chagossians, gives away our money, and yet tramples all over, I think, with the greatest respect, anybody when it suits him. I mean, human rights, what about the child abuse inquiries, right? Ignores that for a Chinese embassy, buggers off to China to make a trade deal, spends his time sidling up to Europe. If he, as Prime Minister, I don't think it washes anymore to say, I wasn't aware of that. I think he's up to his neck in it as well. I really do. I really do.
And there are really serious questions about the security state in this as well, because, you know, these emails were sent from official email servers. He wasn't exactly being subtle, Mandelson. You know, he was pretty flagrant about his dealings with Jeffrey Epstein. Why did no one look into this? When he was going to become the ambassador to the US, how was it that nobody looked into those channels beforehand?
Or maybe they did and it was ignored.
Exactly, and maybe they did, and if they did, then the Prime Minister cannot stay in his place. He cannot. He must resign.
It is as serious as that. Andy, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Just wondering if you had that 75 grand that I loaned you. Do you remember that?
No.
No, you don't remember? Oh, fair enough. I suppose it's an easy thing to forget, but when you're ready, just pop it back in the account, you know. I know it's not much, is it, these days, but yeah, come on. You know, these fellas, that Prince Andrew and Mandelson, they just treat us with utter contempt, don't they? They think we're just plebs that they can lie to and make stories up and fall for it, because they've had that all their lives, haven't they? The privileged, you know, self-obsessed sort of. Yeah, I can't say what I really think. But yeah, it's just ridiculous. Have a good day, mate.
Thank you. That's Andy. He says I owed him 75 grand. That was another thing with Mandelson. £75,000, 3 25 grand payments into his bank account from Epstein. He has no idea. Yeah. Mandelson, but look at this, front page of The Sun. As Met sensationally launches criminal probe into Mandelson and Kemi Powell's pressure on the PM, evidence that damns Labour's Dark Lord. But I think you're right. I genuinely believe he'll go to prison.
Yep, I agree with that.
I genuinely think he'll go to prison, and I think it's the very least that should happen.
Prison. Yep.
And if there is any form of cover-up, I mean, I keep going back to it. People get angry with me. They've covered up the rape gang. It sticks in my craw like you wouldn't believe that girls were raped and nobody's done anything about it. If they try and cover this up, the outrage won't even describe it.
Well, this is the Labour Party. They are the true party of sleaze, and they have been from the very beginning. You know, New Labour's fresh image that they had actually was covering up a kind of level of, I'm not sure I could even say the word, but sleaze certainly from the very, very beginning. And Peter Mandelson is just one emblem of that. I mean, what a disgusting person he is. And frankly, we don't know how much money he has. We don't know where his property is. It's all very secretive.
Oh, I do. £8 million in Notting Hill. Here's a question for you, OK? I've got a boyfriend. If you're just tuning in, I'm just pretending to be Peter Mandelson, and he wants to be a physiotherapist, and his course is going to cost 10 grand. I've just paid 8 million for a house, but my boyfriend's going to phone Jeffrey Epstein or email him and ask for a loan. How the hell does that work out?
It's disgusting.
And that house, by the way, that Mandelson owns is now worth 20 million. Look at this, PM, page 8, the Mail, doing the business. PM must come clean over Mandy's Washington job. Kemi to force a vote on what Starmer knew before appointment. It will be gangbusters today at Prime Minister's Question Time. So much to be asked about him, the security of the whole issue, Starmer, what they knew. Dan Hodges, who was on the show yesterday, just turning this over. The Epstein affair is the biggest political scandal of my lifetime. Our Prime Minister says he knew nothing about it. This is why I don't believe him.
Yeah, well, he should resign for 2 reasons. If he says that he genuinely didn't know, and he can prove that he genuinely didn't know, he should resign because he's incompetent, because that's the sort of thing you need to know about someone you're putting in such an important position. And if he did know, then he absolutely needs to resign because he endangered the good health of the country and our diplomatic standing. I mean, how humiliating. The fact that the stuff Madison has done, it's not just that he's hanging out with a child sex offender and taking money from him personally, and his boyfriend obviously taking money from him as well. It's that he's giving away state secrets, which is what Jeffrey Epstein traded in. OK, that is the reason he was actually friendly with Peter Mandelson.
Where do you and your friends at the Telegraph stand on this? There was a sort of, somebody threw this out at the weekend and everybody went bizarre. Now there's traction to this, that that Epstein was in front, a front man for the KGB, possibly Mossad. That's where he got all his millions from, to glean information from princes and presidents. Because if you look at it, Gates, Musk, Trump, I don't know, the Clintons who agreed to testify, our own then Duke of York, Prime Minister. I mean, it's extraordinary how this man, who I don't even know how he got to a position where he seemingly had the ear of everybody by offering, well, prostitutes and drugs and lube, it seems, to be perfectly honest.
He's a collector, isn't he, of all of these powerful and famous people. And that's the interesting thing about Jeffrey Epstein. We still don't know where all of his money has come from.
Do you think there's a chance that it's a honey trap thing?
I think blackmail is certainly part of the operation. I do think he's probably doing some sort of covert work for certain governments around the world. He certainly was doing it for private individuals. I definitely think he's tracking in blackmail. That's clearly something you can see from the emails. But there's so many questions about where his money comes from, like Les Wexner, who was the Victoria's Secret founder. Why does he give him all of the millions and millions of pounds? He says that he becomes a billionaire through the money of Les Wexner. He's now completely gone off the grid. He won't answer any questions about the relationship.
But the reason that the Mandelson thing is so serious is, for people, I won't complicate it because I wouldn't understand it myself. There was a credit crisis, and these emails were talking about how the government was going to basically deal with that credit crisis and sell off assets. And I saw somebody on television last night say that if you had that inside information, you could have made billions overnight trading. And insider trading, don't laugh, is a life sentence. I said it yesterday. That is a fact. Insider trading. You're a cabinet minister and you're dealing. It's appalling.
Yeah, exactly. And also another point here to be made is that he was working for JP Morgan. Jeffrey Epstein had very close relationships with JP Morgan. When he gave that information about the bailout of the euro, which again is worth billions if you were trading at the right time, there are serious questions to be answered about why he then worked for JP Morgan. Did that have anything to do with the fact he had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein?
Maybe that's how Epstein owned an island.
Well, quite.
All of this, though, very light-hearted, this next bit. Every time, I don't want to offend you, apparently he had a micro-penis. Have you read about this?
Egg-shaped penis.
What does that mean?
I don't know. It's quite strange, isn't it?
I know it's only 18 minutes past 6, but Poppy and I can... Look, Damien's turned around. This is the first time he showed any interest in the show this morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning. Damien's G-spot's turned around and gone, well, I've got an opinion on that. Oh, Damien's not interested at all in this show. An egg-shaped penis.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
If you can help us out, 8722. I agree with Bill and Cheshire. Jez, as useless as Gordon Brown was, he did have principles. He won't roll over and be pressurised into keeping quiet on Starmer's latest problem. I completely agree with that. A bit like Corbyn, I never agreed with the policy, but at least he stood and said what he did. This guy's as dodgy as anything. Mike, in Bryn Mawr. Do you know where Bryn Mawr is?
No, I don't.
Neither do I. Good morning, Poppy and Jeremy. This Labour government is like the Titanic at 2:20 a.m. and is sinking fast. This country has lost whatever trust it's had. We need a general election. Paul in Dorset. It's great to see the beautiful Poppy this morning. Jez, do you know anyone that would pose in their Y-fronts? I think it was hidden cameras.
Well, it is strange, isn't it? A lot of those photos raise some serious questions. I mean, there's obviously the one of Prince Andrew where he seems to be kind of on all fours.
I told her off air.
Conscious woman.
I told her off air. Somebody literally texted yesterday and said, I think you're being really harsh on Prince Andrew. I think he was performing CPR.
Yeah, I won't repeat the word I said after you told me that. It's a bit early for that one, but yeah. Suffice to say, I'm not sure I buy that.
No. Mike's in Durham. Poppy, good morning, and also your sidekick. We may see Kim Jong-Starmer rattled at Prime Minister's questions. Yeah, keep it talk today. Julie will cover that. Good morning, Poppy and Jez. Will this soon be known as Tightly White Pants Gate?
Oh, God, I hope not.
Did you see the pants?
Yes!
You look like a nappy.
Well, no, I actually thought he looked like an Olympic swimmer. Like, why else would you wear a Speedo out in public? Horrible. It's really weird, isn't it?
I don't know if men wear Y-fronts anymore, do they?
Well, apparently he does.
Yeah. Good morning, Poppy and Jez. My one question is, with one scandal after another, how on earth is Starmer still in number 10? I think that's nailed on. Dave. Morning, Poppy, and your sidekick. No doubt Starmer will take no lectures from the Tories as he squirms through Prime Minister's question time, and will start going on about his favourite subject, breakfast clubs. And Dave's in Aberdeen. Morning, JK. Wonder if Starmer has been awake all night, wondering if he has any recollection of being told about Mandelson. That's what does it for me, actually, about Starmer, that he's completely oblivious. This will engulf this government.
Yeah.
This is not going anywhere, is it?
No, I completely agree. I think this is, because I think there's going to be a criminal prosecution against Peter Mandelson, I think this is going to be a kind of albatross around the neck of the Prime Minister, because he is so deeply intertwined with the decision to put him in as ambassador. And he was warned. He was warned. I mean, Maurice Glasman, you know, the Blue Labour founder, he had said, don't put him in, I think it's a mistake. Why did the Prime Minister not listen? But it's because of Morgan McSweeney. I imagine McSweeney will be the first out, and then the Prime Minister will be soon to follow. And then we're going to have to deal with another one of the Labour front bench trying to run the country.
Kemi Badenoch, or Badenoch, whatever you are, which depends what station you listen to, she's on the attack. She's gone, I'm going to get him at Prime Minister's questions. This is her on Mandelson yesterday, by the way. Kemi.
I think that this is yet another mess that the Prime Minister has got himself into. He had no reason to appoint Peter Mandelson, was warned again and again and again that this man should not be appointed. And all of these allegations that have come out just show that he is someone who is not fit for public office. I think there is a lot that needs to be looked into, including investigating how he ever came to be appointed, and all levers which can be pulled in order to remove him from public office should be looked into, including removal from the House of Lords.
Interesting. 0344 499 1000 for your voice notes. What do you make of this whole Dart Lord scenario? It's on the front of every paper. Evidence that damns Labour's Dart Lord, say the Daily Mail. The Sun you're waking up to. The Princes of Darkness. We haven't even started on Andrew. Personally, Poppy and I reckon Mandelson is going to jail. It's deeper than that, though. How in the name of God did our Prime Minister pick this man with everybody saying the security briefings? Is he up to his neck in it? Morning, Pete.
Well, for Scandalson and Andrew to be taking the can for all this, that must be protecting someone much higher and more powerful than what they are. This whole thing goes much, much higher. And for Scandalson to be throwing himself to the wolves, isn't he, by the look of it? Or someone's ordered him to throw himself to the wolves. Oh dear, there's going to be an awful lot of names come out of this.
But of course, once again, this explodes all of his notions that he said to Emily Maitlis about being an honourable gentleman and trying to break things off with Epstein. We can see quite clearly he was lying through his teeth. He has maintained that relationship. And also now, of course, as wasn't the case before, his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson absolutely in the mire as well, with these fawning emails saying she wants to marry Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, marry, at one point, marry me. I mean, and this was after his conviction.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 6:25. You're waking up. I mean, it won't go away. Front of the sun, Princes of Darkness. We've talked about Mandelson. We think he's going to prison. We think, genuinely, this goes so much deeper, and there are going to be major questions, Poppy, are there not, for the Prime Minister at Prime Minister's Question Time? You can get that today on Talk, of course. Mandelson yesterday resigning from the House of Lords before he was booted out. He's resigned from the Labour Party. We reckon, as the criminal investigation is launched, you have to get this into your head. This is massive. For a guy who's a cabinet minister to be divulging secrets of this government and this country to a convicted paedophile, that's jail. However you line it up. Loads of you trying to get on. David in Worcestershire. JK, what is the betting? There is a formal investigation announcement this morning by the Met Police. We've done that, so Starmer can hide behind the law of not talking about the investigation at Prime Minister's Question Times. Can you get away with that?
Oh, I'm sure he can. I absolutely believe he's going to go and hide behind procedure, as he always likes to do. It's in the hands of the authorities, it wouldn't be good to comment, etc, etc.
Lovely impression. Jim in Cranbrook says, I'm a new listener to Talk Radio, and the Poppy Coburn Show is literally my favourite programme. Good. Heather, wrinkly old Sarah Ferguson, homeless without any friends, got her books banned, and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor got kicked out of the Royal Lodge, and now in an old wreck in Norfolk. They got what they bloody well deserved. And David is in Essex. It's not... You don't know who David Essex is, do you?
No.
It was only a winter's tale. You don't know who... No,
I have no idea what you're doing.
David Essex? You don't know who David Essex is?
No.
God. If Brown is so virtuous, Gordon Brown, why the hell didn't he provide information or raise the alarm on Mandelson 15 years ago? I don't think he knew, did he?
Oh, I don't think he knew, but to be honest with you, I don't trust a lot of them.
Nope.
You know, until this police investigation goes on, I would say that they're all tarred by the same brush.
Let's move it on, 6:26, to the other front page. Well, it is the same front page. Shamed Andy booted out in night as cops probe second trafficked woman. I have an interest. You know what I think about the royal family. This man is another one that has had this coming for years. Yeah. And when this Epstein thing started, I was maybe a little bit, why is it all coming on him? Mm-hmm. He's some disgusting piece of work. And the latest allegations are that there is some sort of woman that was trafficked by Epstein to Royal Lodge, and there are accusations of a stripper demanding 250 grand for sex acts. I mean, I can see him going to... You probably can't. I can see him ended up in the nick as well, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, the amount of disgrace this man has brought on the royal family, I mean, if the late Queen could have seen this, it's just absolutely appalling. What I don't understand, though, is that, you know, he must know that all of this stuff is going to keep coming out, yep. Drip, drip, drip. Because this isn't the end, by the way, of the Epstein files. There's still more files to be released, and the US government will release them. And the question is, how much more is Andy going to be involved in this stuff? Are we going to be exiling him to a pond in Norfolk at this point? I think we should encourage him to leave the country.
I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen, and I have to be really careful. Male, stripper demanded $250,000 after she performed sex acts on Epstein and the Duke. Andrew considered abdication after being caught in New York with a paedophile. New files leave his Newsnight claims of no contact in tatters.
Yeah.
This is not going to go away. How do I say this? You can ban somebody. Where's he going to end up? On his own in the Scottish Highlands? They're not going to give up, right? I mean... will he end up in another country? How does that... He's going to have to deal with this for the rest of his life. The next thing we will hear is that his and Sarah Ferguson's mental health is struggling. Yeah. I would say to that, before that's used by an excuse, I think we should be thinking about those young girls who were trafficked and abused by this pervert for years. And by pervert, I mean Epstein, before anybody starts having a go at me.
Yeah, completely. I mean, the Hugh Edwards defence, I think, would truly be a new low if he does end up going for the mental health defence. I mean, look, we've all seen the emails. This is someone who gladly was proud of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, Sarah Ferguson's messages are absolutely ridiculous. The fact that she, may have, it does appear, brought her daughters
I know.
to see Jeffrey Epstein after the child's sex offence, as Sarah Vine says in the Daily Mail. I mean, it is unbelievable.
Sarah Vine on the show tomorrow, by the way, great piece. What motivated Sarah Ferguson to take her young daughters to visit a convicted paedophile?
Agreed.
I know you're not a mum, right? And that does, I'm not mean that. I read that and my stomach turns.
Yeah.
And I've met Fergie many times. No, not in the last few years. You took your daughters. So when all of this happened yesterday, and we've got Kinsey with an update from America in about 15 minutes, I was saying, look, they were 8 and 10. They were 18 and 20.
Yeah.
Why did they go?
Yeah.
Why didn't they put their foot down?
Yeah.
Are they complicit in this?
Exactly. Were they aware of Jeffrey Epstein's history? Like, how much did they actually know? I mean, it's pulling more people into this like bog of scandal, which is just so bad for the royal family. It's so bad as a human being. And I just think, you know, it's not just the fact he was coming in his royal capacity as well. He was at one time a trade envoy. He was supposed to be representing Britain on the international stage, and there have been stories about Prince Andrew's conduct in that role for years and years and years and years. I just don't think it's good enough that he's hiding away in some house in Norfolk, to be honest with you. I think he needs to leave the country. If there's no criminal charges that are going to be taken against him, I don't want him here.
No. What do you do with him?
Well, I think he's made enough. He's clearly made enough friends. I mean, I was reading the Andrew Lowney book. I think it was Disgraced. That's the title of it. And he's clearly got enough friends around the world that he's been making slightly dodgy dealings with. I'm sure some of them will have to take him in. He's clearly got enough of these friends that have been funneling him money over the years. But I just don't want this person to remain in Britain. And I actually probably think the royal family actually agree on that. I imagine the king is desperate to see him out. You know, this scandal, constant scandal that's hitting the royal family at a time that they really don't need it. I just don't think he can come back from this because, again, there are going to be more files released.
Yeah.
I would put good money on there will be more images, more messages, more maybe videos of him and his wife with Jeffrey Epstein. So, yeah, I just don't think it's good enough that he keeps moving from house to house to house. He's got to go.
Disgraced and thrown abroad a bit like Edward VII and all that went on. A really interesting moment, though, for the monarchy and an interesting moment for the country. And I don't think any of us... I mean, I was the person that interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell 2.5 years ago when JK Live launched on our television station. And I interviewed her when she was inside that penitentiary. And I will never forget the one thing that she said. She said... She didn't say I'm not guilty. But there has always been the feeling from her camp that she was getting all a bit like Andrew, but this is spreading out now. This is spreading out unbelievably, isn't it?
Yeah, and I actually think with Ghislaine Maxwell, you know, with more of these emails that have come out, it's made it clearer how integral she was to the trafficking
I'm not defending her in any way at all.
Because I remember that I actually did think, you know, Jeffrey's dead, so they're throwing the charges at her. But I think it kind of shows that this goes beyond even what, you know, anyone could have thought it was.
I think the Clintons yesterday agreed to testify. Trump,
crazy.
You know, let me show you this. Trump, who many people will say was mentioned, and he keeps saying it's nothing, maybe because he's president. Yesterday, Caitlin Collins, his nemesis, that CNN reporter who would annoy anybody, he went nuts when she brought Epstein up. Have a watch, have a listen.
Nothing came out about me, other than it was a conspiracy against me, literally, by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
What would you say to people
like
who feel like they haven't gotten
healthcare,
justice, Mr. President?
something that people care about. Yeah, what do you say? Go ahead.
What would you say to the survivors who feel like they haven't gotten
You are the
justice?
worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. You know, she's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile in your face. You know why? You know why you're not smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth, and you're a very dishonest organization, and they should be ashamed of you. Okay, go ahead.
Survivors of a sexual abuser.
It's not funny, is it?
I shouldn't laugh at Trump, but he does have... he's got great comedian.
But then, I don't know if he's implicated, and he's the... it's extraordinary, the tentacles of this man.
That's what's so unbelievable about this. I mean, you could basically search any name of anyone who had money or influence, you know, on the international stage in the last 20 years, and they would arrive in the files. It's Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Who else's name will come out? I know somebody's name is on that file, but I'm not giving it away. Right, so this morning, for Wednesday, all right, Damien, for Wednesday, who's having a worse morning? The Dark Lord, Peter Mandelson, Andrew, Mountbatten Windsor, both facing criminal investigations. Keir Starmer, who's going to have to explain how in the name of God he thought Mandelson was a good pick. Back to Sean. Morning, Sean.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby. I'd like to think our security services know a bit more about the security threats to us than we do, and including the Prime Minister. So when the security services have given the Prime Minister this massive file on Mandelson's shadiness, why is he still given the job? You know, that's the more important question here. What's he got? He must know something. But it's just, again, I think the Prime Minister should resign, because it's not just Mandelson, it's the phone nicker, it's the boy who punched the constituents in the face, it's the woman who kicked out a tenant, it's the corruption minister who's been jailed for corruption. That's Keir Starmer's friend. You've got Rayner's tax avoidance. You know, all these people put in positions by him. This is bad judgment. If I knew all these people, right, all these wrong-uns, then that'd make me a wrong-un, you know? Great show, mate.
Couldn't agree more. Starmer is implicated up to his neck in this. Morning, Stephen Cambridge. Another episode of Beauty and the Beast in 2 days. Get Poppy a slot presenting her own show, says Stephen Cambridge. Go to work. Mike in Essex. Morning, Poppy and JK. If Mandelson has emailed Epstein so nonchalantly, this is a good point, Pops, government secrets, imagine what he told him when he was in his company.
Well, there you go. Yeah, off the record. If he's saying it with his government email, what was he saying privately?
Joanna from Salisbury. Jez, Pops, the appointment of ambassador was made on the recommendation of the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary David Lammy. Lammy was a junior minister under Peter Mandelson. Stuart Latham. How are these people allowed to resign to keep their pensions? They should be sacked and lose all privileges. David, morning, Poppy. Starmer will pass the buck and probably blame a junior civil servant. Vinny, morning, Poppy. Starmer will reply to Badenoch, I cannot talk about an ongoing investigation, which is exactly what you said, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like... The thing about Starmer is I've got another clip. You know when Mandelson had to leave... This is him being indignant and angry. This is on Channel 4. This was on their news station in September 2025. Go on, Keir. Start shifting. Go on.
I am angry. I don't particularly think anger helps here, but I feel let down. I feel that a process was gone through, and now information has come to light, which had I known it at the time, I wouldn't have appointed him. Had I known the nature and extent of the relationship, the fact that he was questioning and challenging the conviction. I've worked on violence against women and girls for many years. I know exactly how all this affects victims. That was a factor I didn't know anything about until Wednesday afternoon, that he was encouraging the challenging of the conviction. That goes to a different issue, to the nature and extent of the relationship. On top of that, that even on Wednesday evening, I wasn't getting through my officials from Peter Mandelson satisfactory answers.
You just don't buy him. If I'd known that information, what does information the Prime Minister know about anything? Because all he ever does is pass the bloody buck.
He sounds like a Dalek, honestly. That's all I think every time he gives one of these speeches. Again, this is someone who campaigned on cleaner than clean, returning dignity to public office, let's get rid of Tory sleaze, and look at him. Nothing the Tories did, and I'm not a fan of the Conservative Party, compares to what Peter Mandelson has done here. That is how serious this scandal is. Why is the Prime Minister not on television every morning apologising to the nation?
And to the victims.
And to the victims.
Human rights, but it doesn't matter if you're an abused kid in Rotherham in the north, and it doesn't seemingly matter if you're an abused girl from the Epstein horrors, because in that instance, apparently the human rights brain doesn't tick in and he gives a paedophile. It's ridiculous.
Well, quite. I mean, if he didn't resign over the ongoing cases in Rotherham, then he's not going to resign over Jeffrey Epstein, is he? But he should resign, and he should be pushed to resign, and that's why I hope this story doesn't go away. I hope it continues to dog the government.
Gonna link up quickly with Kinsey Schofield live in LA. Late for her and early for us. Her take on the latest royal scandal. Gonna go to an ad break. Have you got a voice note for me? He's looking at me in a slightly strange way. We're back in 3. Don't go anywhere.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 20 to 7. You with Talk Breakfast, and you're waking up to just a scandal that is engulfing so many people. Princes of Darkness, shamed Andy, booted out of Royal Lodge overnight, sent in disgrace to Norfolk, facing yet further accusations this morning. A stripper demanded £250,000 for sex acts, allegedly was a second Russian girl trafficked by Epstein to Royal Lodge to have sex with Andy. I mean, there's disgrace and there's complete disgrace. Then there's Peter Mandelson, the Dark Lord. Last night, the Met Police, you're waking up to this story, sensationally announcing a criminal investigation into him potentially leaking financial secrets of this country to a convicted paedophile. This is, as Poppy Coburn said, this is going nowhere. This is massive. Richard, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy and Poppy. Great show. It's Richard here from Crowborough in East Sussex. One thing, when you look at Epstein's emails, the one thing that comes through is that he just can't spell for toffee. I mean, newspapers are always having to set in context disclaimers when they quote him in print, and even to the point of being illiterate. So I always thought that multi-billionaires were very, very intelligent people. So how does somebody with the spelling of a 10-year-old get that kind of fortune?
I think we should look at it positively, not the paedophilia. Obviously, he should go to jail, and I'm glad he's no longer on this earth. But it does prove that you cannot spell and have a micro-penis and be a billionaire if you know the right people. I'm just looking at the, after the inauguration, Mandelson swanning it in in the White House with Donald Trump. Let us just repeat what we said. This is one of the biggest political scandals this country's ever seen, and Labour is in meltdown. And please keep it Talk all day, because Prime Minister's Question Time today is going to be some experience. This crops to the United States of America, to LA. Let's get an update on a situation that is developing rapidly. Kinsey Schofield, host of the Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered podcast. Good morning, my darling. How are you?
Hi, Poppy.
Oh, hi, Poppy. Honestly, what? Hi, I'm here. What's happened to my life?
JK, so much breaking news since the last time we spoke, which was about 24 hours ago. I mean, we've had J.D. Vance come out and say, yeah, maybe we should hold former Prince Andrew accountable. Maybe we should ask him some pretty tough questions. We've had Prince Edward have to acknowledge it, which was really awkward. And I've seen a lot of criticism for the way he handled that, although I would not necessarily agree. And then more revelations through these thousands and thousands of documents, strange messages from Sarah Ferguson trying to set Jeffrey Epstein up with female friends with great bodies. And, you know, you mentioned some new stripper accusations and things like that. So very unedifying. And, you know, I would be mortified if I were his daughters.
Well, we talked about this yesterday, and you absolutely made the papers over here, you chiding me, and you were dead right. I was saying, you know, front page of our Mail here, the amazing Sarah Vine, what motivated Sarah Ferguson to take her young daughters to visit a convicted paedophile? And yet you said yesterday, something that was picked up, they were 18 and 20. Most kids would know their brain at 18 and 20. Are they implicated? Did they have no knowledge whatsoever? Are we going to alight upon all sorts of people who didn't, at the time, know or have just swept this under the carpet? This is... I mean, politically, this is massive, and for the royal family, this is a seminal moment, isn't it?
It is, and there are some whispers that, this is according to the Daily Mail, who's been on top of this, so I have to give them a lot of credit there. People close to Beatrice and Eugenie claim that when Prince William was in Rio, several people pulled him aside and said, what's going on with Prince Andrew? And he said, unfortunately, I can't talk about it. But the message they felt there was that they had been briefed about potential new scandals that could be on the horizon. And is that what we're seeing today? Or is there worse to come that
Poppy,
we have yet to see?
You've said, haven't you? You reckon there's much more to come.
Yeah, exactly. And the US administration, I think, has actually hinted that there are more files that are going to be released coming down the line. So it looks like more scandal for everyone involved.
Let's make this royal, though, if it's OK. he looks haunted, and so he should. This is not going to go away. Poppy just said, what do you do? Well, you know, we can move him from house to house. I believe, and everybody disagrees with me, you will as well, I think he'll go to jail. Nobody agrees with me. I think he could definitely, over this trafficking thing, if this girl has been trafficked, I think he could go to jail. But Poppy was saying he's got rich friends abroad. Maybe he needs to be sent from the country, I don't know. But it's not going to be a glorious ending in any which way, and so it shouldn't be.
I do think that he would escape to a country that wouldn't ship him off to whoever was trying to jail him. I think he's clever in that regard. I don't think that he would ever allow himself to be arrested. What he should do is just disappear, go away. We should never see him outside riding. The arrogance and the entitlement of seeing him on these horses, just, you know, enjoying the beautiful sunshine and enjoying his day, that makes people really angry. And it reminds people that we're not all treated equally. You can be foul. And I mean, can you believe the allegations regarding this stripper in Florida? She's hired to show up to dance. She's given, we're going to give you $2,000 to dance. According to reports, they request that she service the both of them at the same time, and she's supposed to be given $10,000. They don't pay her that money, and that's ultimately why she sues. And she said she was so ashamed of this because she's not a sex worker. These are horrifying stories. And there is also some communication between Epstein where we learned that Andrew is so humiliated after being caught in New York with him in Central Park that he is considering abdicating. And Queen Elizabeth actually tells him, no, don't worry about it. Just go get a job. We are constantly saying, oh, thank goodness she's not here to see this. But at some point, Jeremy, we have to ask ourselves if she didn't, I don't even want to say it because it feels so horrible. But
listen, you can all accuse me of many things. I don't believe for 1 minute that woman had any idea. I won't, you know what I'm like, sorry. I think that this was kept, I think it was kept under darkness, excuse the pun. Thank God she died. Not saying. I mean, he's a disgrace, and it is sordid, and it is revolting, and he must have known. But Poppy keeps saying it. There is more to come. I said something earlier, which a lot of people, some people online didn't like. You wait till we get the I'm suffering bad mental health. Well, do you know my answer to that's really simple? Think about those young girls who've been trafficked, those young girls who are victims for the rest of their lives. And I hope he and Mandelson in their entirety do not in any way, right, think that using that card is the answer. I think this is going to, I mean, I think this could bring down this government. I don't know about over there. We saw overnight Trump scolding the CNN reporter Caitlin Collins and doing his usual thing. You're a terrible reporter. Nobody likes you. You don't smile. He's mentioned in it the Clintons yesterday agreeing to testify. And I find myself thinking, I don't know if you do, who else? Who else?
Well, that's what's so interesting over here. The contrast between J.D. Vance going, yeah, let's go get Andrew. Let's question him. Let's grill him. And Trump's like, this is all the Democrats trying to bring me down, trying to distract from the good work we're doing. And that's not a political statement. It's just an observation. And I do think that if Andrew wanted to stress innocence, he would give someone an interview. He would give anyone some sort of testimony to say, look, I'm innocent. I didn't see anything. I didn't participate in anything. However, he's proven to not be a credible witness thanks to that BBC interview, thanks to some of these emails. So ultimately, would it help him out to testify? I just don't know.
I think there comes a time, it happened to the Tory government, where the British public and the world stops believing anything that comes out of your mouth. And so for him, perhaps the best thing is to disappear and not be seen again. What that will be. Really appreciate dropping in with us. We've got to keep on top of this story. Do you think that Andrew will go to jail?
Every day, my opinion moves closer to yes. I will say that much.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that's my final answer for today.
Listen, get to bed. We'll speak to you very soon, probably in another 24 hours. You're a legend. Thank you so much indeed. Kinsey Schofield, host, of course, of the brilliant Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. 10 to 7, Poppy Coburn and me. More on the papers after this. Wayne, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. This is Wayne from Erdington in Birmingham. Let's hope that them audible royals, Randy, Andy and Fergie, don't use the mental health card, because there wasn't feeling anything towards the victims at the time. And Pampman Peter Mandelson, lock him up for his pants alone. Keep up the good work, Jezza, baby.
The ripple effect is obviously left behind a 5-year-old without a mother.
He sleeps with a teddy bear with Rhiannon's picture on. He talks about her often. We shouldn't be telling a child of any age that their mother was murdered. If Starmer and his so-called government don't do something, we're not going to have a Britain for all the other women and children that are going through this, and the men too, because there is men being abused, attacked by these illegals.
Mm-hmm.
We get this changed in Rhiannon's name, and that's all we can ask for.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 7 minutes to 7. You would talk breakfast, JK and Poppy. Looking at the papers, you're waking up to this engulfing scandal. You know, Mandelson, is he going to jail? Andrew, is he going to be thrown out of the country? And Keir Starmer, Prime Minister questions today. How much did he know, for Christ's sake, before he gave Mandelson, this vile human being, right? Pant Man, as he's now called on this show, before he gave him the job as UK ambassador to America. Carl, good morning.
All right, Jez, great show. It's Carl from Sheffield. On the topic of arrests, prison, it's never going to happen. I mean, people are still getting through the Epstein files that were released, and it's unbelievably sick the further you get. And thousands of clients he had doing these things, and not one of them is in prison besides Ghislaine Maxwell. Like, if that doesn't tell you what you need to know, these people are never getting locked up.
Sadly, I agree with him. Let's cut locally, domestically, very quickly. I haven't got much time. Page 2 of The Sun. It's not getting any better for Keir today. Starmer's migrant record. So Keir Starmer, I don't even want to call him Starmer, is one boat away from claiming Britain's worst ever small boats record. So far, you'll see the migrant tracker, 65,000, nearly 66 migrants have arrived on his watch in 19 months, within touching distance of Boris Johnson's record. Imagine that. The only thing that you've actually achieved, the only records you've broken, apart from being the most less popular than Manduro before he got taken out of Venezuela, is that you've allowed more migrants in. Another policy in bloody tatters, yes?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is Labour's efficiency. They've achieved in 19 months what it took Boris Johnson 3 years to do. I mean, you know, every single year around winter time we get the same story, which is a load of lefties will go, oh, there's no boats coming. Oh, look at this, the small boats crisis is all fake. There's no boats coming for weeks and weeks and weeks. That must mean it's all been sorted. Keir Starmer's just so brilliant. And it actually turns out if they went outside and looked out of their window and they see the sleet coming down or the snow.
6 foot waves.
Yeah, the 6 foot waves, the wind that would blow you off the white cliffs of Dover, you'd realise that they're waiting for the weather to get better, which they always do. So when it comes along to spring and summertime, let's see how many tens of thousands of people continue to break into our country.
He has no answers. I don't believe that he ever wanted to. The other big story today is Nigel Farage yesterday, big press conference. I'll put benefit money behind our bars. He's actually the columnist in The Sun today. We're going to try and get Nigel on this morning on page 10, and he says he will save the British pub. You'll remember that this tax on small businesses, 118,000, something like that, pubs and hospitality units have closed since this government went to war. He says, I'll save pubs by cutting benefits. The bloated benefits bill, I mean, it's a great policy.
No, it's fantastic.
It's a great policy.
Also, I saw someone say that, oh, we're taking money from vulnerable people and you're giving it to pubs. No, it's a tax cut. It's a tax cut. Actually, it's money that the pubs should have had in the first place.
Yes.
But the government decided to steal it from them. And I'm really happy that we are taking pubs as places to meet people and socialise more seriously.
Because the deeper side of this government is they actually don't want people to do that.
No.
But let's just talk genuinely about that accusation. This isn't me being pro-reform, but let's get it. You're favouring pubs over benefits. If we don't, as a country, finally acknowledge that this fantastic system that was set up to help people who can't help themselves is now flooded with people taking them out of a system. And actually that's to the detriment of the genuine people. The feckless and lazy need to get off their arses and we need to stop paying for it. I'm sorry, it's a fact.
And this is the two-child benefit cap he's talking about, and I am pleased he's U-turned on it, because I think it's like all policies. Everyone will say, oh no, it's not going to have the consequences you think it will just help people. And as always, it will turn out they're wrong. You've got billions of pounds that will be coming out the public purse and they won't apologise for it.
Absolutely.
So, I think Nigel Farage, I'm really pleased that he's actually come out and been bold on this and said, this is what I'm actually going to do if I'm going to be Prime Minister. I will make policy choices like that put money back in the pockets of business people rather than constantly seeing them go out on people that maybe don't need that money, let's be frank, because a lot of people really don't need that.
Well, that's the point, and it should always try and be balanced. Very quickly before you go, great work as ever, Deputy Comment Editor of The Telegraph. The Gorton and Denton by-election is garnering a lot of interest. Yesterday we had Matt Goodwin. Today Professor John Curtis will talk about how those figures are looking, the polls, and tomorrow actually we've got the Tory candidate, Cadden. She's going to come in. What do you think about this by-election? Because there's arguments that it's reform against the Greens, Labour will be trounced, that will be the beginning of the end for slippery Keir. Just briefly, where are you on this?
I think it's going to be a microcosm of what the general election will look like, and I do think that it's going to be a battle between the Green Party as the representatives of the left and Reform UK as the representatives of the right. Look at this by-election. The Labour and the Tories are just nowhere to be seen, really. And I think it's a bit of a coin flip on who wins this one between the Greens and Reform. I do think Matt Goodwin's a strong candidate, so we will see what happens.
Against the plumber? She's a plumber, isn't she?
Well, yeah, she claims to be a plumber, but I think some people
Is there any truth that she's married to an executive of AstraZeneca?
Yeah, she is. So I think the kind of working class background stuff has slightly been overplayed there.
So she's not a plumber and she's married to a man who was behind the company that jabbed children?
Yes.
OK. And interesting, the Greens, and we'll look at all angles on this show for that by-election. That's really important. I mean, they want to increase tax still further. They're probably more left than Starmer, would you say?
Way more left than Starmer. Yeah. I mean, you see the word populism thrown about all the time. There's only one populist party around, and that's the Green Party. If you want to talk about people who are telling porcupines to try and get into power, it's Zach Polanski and his gang.
Hypno-tits.
Hypno-tits, as he's otherwise known. I mean, I think the Greens are a big, big problem, so I do hope they don't win this by-election, and by virtue of that, not the general.
Later on, we'll give you a list of the candidates, and we will get Sir John Curtis on. Poppy Coburn, back by popular demand, every Monday and Wednesday now. Thank you so much. She'll be back on Monday morning. So much to come on the show. After the news, Reform's First Lady, Sarah Pochin, reacting to Mandelson, to Prince Andrew, and to that by-election. But the news at 7 is next on Talk Breakfast.
Hello from Crow Crowborough, where the local residents are enraged with what has happened to their community merely overnight, when just 27 single male asylum seeker illegal migrants were bussed into their military training camp. Behind me are local residents, people from all over the country. Shabana Mahmood has said that this is an effective way of getting rid of those expensive, flashy asylum hotels. But unfortunately, these people are still placed within the community.
Whole town is very afraid because these are unvetted men from countries that are, the government warn us not to go to. I've got an 18-year-old daughter and she gets the bus opposite camp. Do you feel safe for her? No, so that will have to stop. We'll either have to wait with her or take her to wherever she needs to go.
The reason I'm here today is because I live in Crowborough and my family, I've got a wife and children, and just worried about, my wife walking to work and my sons, walking about. Anything can happen, can't it, that nowadays and age, what's going on, what's happening in this country. So I'm just concerned and frightened,
There was support from other towns, other communities, because of course Shabana Mahmood has threatened other communities, and she said they're going to open site after site after site. Well, I would hope that if she's going to try and do that, she learns some lessons about the way she's done it in Crowborough, because this is not finished. We are not finished objecting to this plan.
Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no!
We would urge her to reconsider. And whatever she does, she needs to talk to the people that she's imposing these things on.
If you had a direct line to Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood, what would you say to them?
Look after your most vulnerable first. It's your priority to look after your vulnerable.
If they're bringing illegal immigrants into a camp in the dead of night, why are they doing that? They're doing that because it's disingenuous, it's dishonest, it's covert, and they're trying to keep the reality away from the local community of what they're actually doing to us. We've now got to the end of the entrance to the camp, we've got cameras, we've got police drones. It's like a cloud that's come over this community.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning. Welcome along, welcome back, welcome in, whatever it is. This is Talk Breakfast. It's the home of working Brits, of alarm clock Brits. It's your chance to have your say. It's where the nation comes to talk. As ever, whatever you want to talk about, 0344 499 1000. Only number you need for a call, for a voice note. A Christian will take your text throughout the show, 87222. And you are waking up to, like, a scandal that is engulfing this government and this country. The Princes of Darkness, I should say, on the front of the Sun today. Shamed Andy, booted out of Royal Lodge overnight, sent in disgrace to Norfolk to live in a little cottage stripped of everything, following more allegations overnight that a stripper who's demanding 250 grand performed, I'm just being honest, kid his ears, a threesome on him and Epstein. Another Russian prostitute was trafficked for Andy to Windsor. These are criminal offences, and if that isn't bad enough, a Labour peer who has been the architect of so much to do with Labour, Peter Mandelson, overnight we've discovered a criminal investigation being launched by the Metropolitan Police. And listen to this. He's accused of leaking financial secrets of this government, well, this country, under Gordon Brown's premiership, whilst he served as a cabinet minister, having signed the Secrets Act. That's what you have to do to a convicted paedophile. He will definitely end up in jail. Starmer, Prime Minister's Question Times today. That is going to be astonishing. Kemi Badenoch is going for the juggler. You have to ask a man who's less popular than any Prime Minister in our history, how much... If you didn't know about Mandelson when you appointed him, you're an incompetent git who should resign. And as Poppy Coburn said, if you did know, you are up to your neck in it. Morning, Dan.
Morning, Jezza. It's Dan from Kent. 12 o'clock today, the eyes of the nation will be on Parliament for peer reviews, and we know what the questions are going to be. So my message is for Keir Starmer: answer the freaking questions. No spin, no deflection, no blaming it on 14 years of Tory failure, no free breakfast clubs. Just answer the questions. We want the truth. It's a great show.
Here's the interesting thing, Dan and everybody else. We all know exactly what Starmer will do. He will say, and I quote, "This is being investigated by the police. I cannot talk about it." That is the problem. This man is up to his neck in it. Andrew's up to his neck in it. Mandelson. And the other question is, how many other people are up to their necks in it? This is the biggest, this isn't an exaggeration, could be the biggest crisis politically and royally that this country has ever seen. We say a very good morning to the First Lady of Reform. Runcorn and Helsby, stand by. Look at that kitchen. Sarah Pochin, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Have you been cleaning that kitchen since early doors?
Early doors, up all night.
Fantastic. Listen, so much to talk about. We have to start with the front of the sun, the Princes of Darkness. Let's start with Peter Mandelson. It is extraordinary, I think, to a lot of our viewers and listeners that a man who was, as I said, the architect of so much, who was sacked 3 times and kept being brought back. Firstly, a dodgy loan, then dodgy passports, then again and again, but was actually given one of the most high-ranking jobs by Keir Starmer when he came to power as our ambassador to America. And the question is, Sarah Pochin, how much did our Prime Minister know? Because there is now a criminal investigation. I think Mandelson goes to jail, but I think Starmer's, I mean, we say it every day, this really is trouble for Starmer, isn't it?
It really is. This is just the sort of story that the British people can't bear to hear. This is a story about power, about corruption, about wealth, about control, and about abuse of women, and they're all in it up to their necks. And I do not accept that Starmer had no idea about Peter Mandelson's murky past. I mean, I've never met Peter Mandelson, and he still comes across to me as somebody who just reeks of having a murky past. But, you know, joking aside, you know, this is an incredibly serious matter. And yes, I think Mandelson will go to jail for this.
It's extraordinary when you look at the tranche of emails which are going to continue to come. Some of them, I mean, I don't want to make it demean it, because it is absolutely actually about the victims. There's pictures of him today having his feet massaged. Yesterday we had the unedifying picture of him in white underpants. There's a picture of him today in one of the newspapers walking down the street in London in 2009 in a sweatshirt that patently belongs to Jeffrey Epstein with J.E. on the chest. Weird is the first thing. God knows what their relationship was like. But the serious issue, Sarah Pochin, if you become a Minister of the Crown, you sign an Official Secrets Act. To potentially be responsible for leaking that, right, in the light of day, not hiding it, and there was that credit crunch scandal. They could have made billions from this overnight. This is one of the most biggest, shocking derelictions and of duty I think I've ever heard about a serving cabinet minister. I really mean that.
Again, it reeks of corruption, doesn't it? It reeks of wealthy, powerful people that look after each other. This is market manipulation, potentially. Again, you know, something that he will go to jail for. It appears as though there is plenty of evidence to prove that he was effectively giving to Epstein state government information, privileged and confidential information. The whole thing is sordid. It's creepy, but it also reeks of corruption. And that is what the British people hate. And the fact that Keir Starmer, once again, our Prime Minister, showing a complete lack of judgment as to who he appoints in key positions. And this is the ambassador to the United States is clearly one of the most sought after positions in our government, in our establishment. And we need the highest quality individual to take that role. And yet somebody like Peter Mandelson gets it. Well, again, it's about, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Peter Mandelson has been involved in the Labour Party his entire life. You're not telling me that Starmer didn't know about some of the goings on in Peter Mandelson's past, or at least had an inkling as to why he would be the most unsuitable person to represent our great country in the United States.
And I agree, and I think it's like I said, if he didn't know, he's incompetent, he has no control over his government, and he should go, in my humble opinion. And if he did know, it begs the question about judgment, how many people Mandelson's got mud on. I mean, the whole thing reeks. Today, Prime Minister's Question Time, we'll follow that closely on Julia's show from midday. He is going to come under real pressure. What are you expecting to see, Sarah?
What I'm expecting to see is the Prime Minister who, as always, doesn't answer any of the questions that are directly asked of him. He will be, I'm sure, sweating profusely today at Prime Minister's Questions Times, but, he's got to go. He's got to go. And whether it's to do with his judgment about the various ministers he's appointed that have then had to resign for different reasons, or whether it's about who is appointed as the ambassador to the United States, or whether it's about his endless U-turns, the fact is that he's weak. He's very, very damaged now as a Prime Minister. And I don't think there's, many members of the public left that actually want to see him as our head of state.
Couldn't agree more. Let's just move quickly before we talk about a reform policy announced yesterday by your leader, Nigel Farage. Let's talk about shamed Andy, booted out in the night as cops probe second trafficked woman. You spent 20 years as a magistrate. I think, actually, he was criticised overnight, Prince Edward, for his response. I think he's absolutely right. Let's not forget the victims. We can sit here with the vitriol about Andy and his perverted mates and trafficked girls and Russian prostitutes and alleged threesomes and all of that. These are vulnerable young women. And he has to slide off. I don't even want to have a discussion about Andy. I think he's beyond contempt. It will impact, no doubt, on the royal family, and he's engulfed in this crisis and his seedy wife, and it's beyond repugnant to me. We should be thinking about the victims, shouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. There were girls involved here that were abused. And, it doesn't matter necessarily whether they were over 18 or under 18. Clearly, a criminal offence on the one hand. But the point is, it's young women that have been manipulated, that have been brought to these, again, powerful men, and had the opportunity to go to some of these amazing royal places and establishments, but they have been abused. They are victims, and I dread to think what some of the stuff that could come out that's there to come out, because and all I can say is I'm so glad that our late Queen is not here with us anymore to witness all of this sordid behaviour by supposedly her favourite son.
Two very quick questions. Does Peter Mandelson go to jail in your opinion?
Yes.
Does Andrew go to jail in your opinion, or is he banished from this country?
I think Andrew, I doubt he will go to jail. We obviously don't know whether he's done anything to warrant that, but I doubt he would go to jail. OK, you're a magistrate. You were a magistrate. Let's move it on to yesterday. Nigel Farage is the columnist in The Sun today. Great article, page 10, if you get the newspaper. I'll save British pubs by cutting benefits. One of the biggest travesties about this government for many people is that they came to power talking about growth and immediately set about destroying young businesses, small businesses, with NI cuts and more increases for workers' rights and increasing the minimum wage and all that. And I think there was a statistic, it might be that you gave it to me, I don't know, 118,000 pubs and small businesses on the hospitality front have closed in the last 18 months under this bloody government. Nigel says we should save the British pub, and I'm going to do it by getting rid of much of this bloated welfare bill where people are rewarded, frankly, excuse my French, for doing nothing. Bugger all. That seems to be an attribute nowadays. Well, look, the point is that the pub is part of our culture. It's part of British life, isn't it? And they have taken an absolute hammering, as have so many small businesses generally, but particularly the hospitality sector, whether it's because of the national insurance increases on business, whether it's because of business rates, whether it's because of the workers' rights bill, the minimum wage, you name it. Small businesses taking a hammering. And in fact, I've got a business breakfast in my constituency of Runcorn and Helsby on Friday morning, and I'm sure that the people there, the businessmen there coming to see me, will be telling me all about these issues. But what Nigel is saying here is, look, let's use some of our bloated welfare state to cut business rates for pubs. Let's cut beer duty. Let's cut VAT in pubs. Let's give them a chance to survive in these difficult times. And you know what? I applaud him for that. Of course I do, because it's part of our culture that's being eroded by this government.
I couldn't agree more. Very quickly, we sent Samara, our roving reporter, down to the press conference yesterday, where in true Samara style, she asked Nigel the obvious question. Let's hear this. Samara Gill with Nigel Farage.
Samara Gill from talkTV.
Jeremy Clarkson, a pub owner, he wrote a very scathing piece in The Sun this weekend saying that reform sounds great until you ask what they actually do beyond stopping the boats. He also said that voters don't know what they're signing up for. So can you name one policy on health, education or transport that would be measurably better after your first year in power, and tell us how voters would notice the difference?
Hello, Jeremy. Here we are. I'll put a copy in the post to you. I've not been to your pub yet. I trust I'm not banned, along with all the Labour MPs. There you are. There you are. And actually, what he's saying is wrong. Wrong. We've been unveiling new names, new faces. We've been unveiling policies for the last 6 or 8 months, actually in considerable quantity. So I can tell you, Jeremy, there's a constructive plan for pubs that also cuts the welfare bill. I'm sure he will approve thoroughly of that. And you can tell him we're working very, very hard on a proper agricultural policy as well. So I think perhaps he'll be reassured. Just spend less time with David Cameron would be my advice.
That's called scolding you, Samara. Well done, Nigel. Also, just before you go, another story today. We've talked Mandelson, we've talked Andrew, we've talked saving pubs. Page 2 of The Sun, Starmer's migrant record. It seems that the only thing that this man is going to achieve in terms of getting in the record books is he's only one boat away, Sarah, from claiming Britain's worst ever small boats record. He's one boat away from passing Johnson's tally of 65,811, which took the ex-Prime Minister 3 years to reach. It's not a record to be proud of, but I have to say, another policy, hot air, and nothing's actually happened, has it? It's got worse.
Well, do you know what? Yesterday in the chamber, I was speaking on the two-child benefit cap as it happened. But as always, the opposition benches use that opportunity to attack reform, to attack me when I'm on my feet. When I actually use the words, we want to put the British people first. We have to now prioritise British people in this country when it comes to whether it's housing or welfare or whatever it is. The British people have to come first. And I'm absolutely pilloried for that. Again, on a debate last night, the woke Lib Dem member on the panel attacking me for this policy. But look at these pictures. We cannot cope anymore with this invasion of foreign nationals into this country. We are not here for the rest of the world to come and use our welfare state, to come and take our new council houses. We now hear with this policy, the latest policy from the government on housing. It is outrageous, and the British people have had enough.
Can I just, before you go, and I completely agree, by the way, and the abuse you get, that's like anything, isn't it? That tells you you're doing something right. Nigel Farage yesterday, and this has been picked up by every newspaper, dropped his support for abolishing that two-child benefit cap, instead calling for that to be retained to fund support for pubs. I have a very clear opinion on this, which is if you are saying to people, we will continue to give you money so you can procreate with no emphasis on going and giving back, I think it's really dangerous. I really do. I think it's really interesting, this. Just explain to viewers who get perhaps as confused as this old host. What is his support of? What's his position now on this policy?
Okay, so it's very, very clear our position. We will lift the two-child benefit cap only for parents who are working, who are in work, and also for British citizens. So there's two key qualifications. Under a reform government, the two-child benefit cap will be lifted only if you are in full-time work and you are a British citizen. Now, again, yesterday in the chamber, I got absolutely pummeled by the opposition benches for that position. But we have to prioritise British people, and we have to make it quite clear that those that are prepared to set their alarm clocks in the morning, that go out to work every day, they will get supported by a reform government.
But if you come to this country and don't work, or more than that, you're just sat on your backside being feckless, not because you're disabled or mentally ill before the emails start, but because essentially you've allowed yourself to game a system that should have been abolished years ago, we're not going to wipe your backside anymore.
And you're not going to get that two-child benefit cap lifted, because it's those people that take advantage of hard-working, tax-paying people. It's those people that have endless children irresponsibly to knowing that the state will pay.
I can categorically tell you from another life, Sarah, that I've had young women say to me, and men, we're having a baby because we'll get a council flat. And I genuinely mean that, and that there is no way
I have too.
On God's earth that is right. This argument that we hear from certain politicians, which is you're pushing children into poverty. Well, it could be argued that if you keep having children that you cannot afford to pay for, you are responsible for that child being brought into poverty. Do we not all have to have a responsibility as best we can for the kids that we create?
I was listening to the whinging backbench Labour MPs yesterday attacking reform over this, but I can tell you from my years as a family court magistrate, when I saw children taken away from mothers because of difficult circumstances, that people have to realise that bringing a child into the world is the most serious, the most important, the most critical thing that you can do, and to do it without fully understanding and being able to care for that child or understanding the responsibility you have as a parent is utterly unacceptable. And these people that do it because they think it's easy, the state's going to pay, they'll get a bigger council house. I'm sorry, I know I sound hard, but that is a reality. I've heard it over the years, time and time again. That's what people do.
I think it does sound hard to a lot of people, but I think that number is decreasing because I think people are looking at the reality. Thank you for getting up at 4 o'clock and cleaning your kitchen. We hope you have a fantastic day. No doubt we'll see your head bopping up and down. Can I ask a question at PMQs later? Sarah Poachin from Reform, still to come this hour, by the way. Isabel Oakeshott, we'll drop in with her, our international editor for Talk, her view of what's going on. And we've also got author Andrew Lowney. He knows everything about the royal family. All of that ahead of 8 o'clock on Talk Breakfast. Morning, John.
Morning, Jezza. John here in Suffolk. It's a bit of a grim day, and I'm really worried about what association Keir Starmer had. Just having a look at how he stood by Mandelson, and I think there's an awful lot going to come out in the next few weeks and maybe months ahead, and maybe this is the start of the real downfall of Mr. Starmer. Great show as always.
there is definitely some credence to be given to the idea of guilt by association, and mere association or mere presence doesn't indicate guilt or doesn't indicate that you actually participated in these sordid and disgusting crimes. But when you see the repetitiousness, when you see the long-term interactions where it would be very difficult for anybody to be friends with Jeffrey Epstein without knowing the reputation, without seeing the assorted detritus in his path that he's left.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 7:26. It is Wednesday, or is it Tuesday? It's Wednesday, I'm joking. Wednesday morning, the 4th of February. This is JK on breakfast. You're waking up to this engulfing scandal. Mandelson heading to jail, in my opinion. A criminal investigation into him leaking financial secrets of this government to a convicted paedophile, Epstein, on the way. Prince Andrew, formerly Prince Andrew, booted out of Royal Lodge in darkness overnight on Monday, heading to exile. Many saying what finishes him off is he going to end up being banished from the country. But most of all, this is all on Starmer. Prime Minister's Question Time today at midday with Julia. How much did he know about Mandelson? Are you telling me that he didn't have some sort of security briefing that highlighted problems? He did with the Chinese embassy and ignored it. If he's ignored evidence that this was a really bad decision, that will probably cost him his job. On top of which, by the way, if he didn't know, he's the most incompetent Prime Minister we've ever had. Morning, Laura.
Morning, Jeremy. Laura in Wiltshire. I think Epstein's skill was working out whether each person he met wanted power or sex or money or a combination. And that's what he offered them. And that's how he reeled them all into his sticky web. And he had dirt on absolutely everybody, I'm convinced. And I wonder what Mandelson has got on Starmer that made him make such poor choices.
I wonder how much Mandelson's got on so many parts of the Labour Party. Great point. Loads of you getting in touch. Cliff in Berkshire. If Reform do cut the benefit bill as they promised yesterday, my cynical brain wonders whether Witherspoon's turnover would fall through the floor due to their clientele having had their income cut. Very interesting. Michelle, great show, Jez. I'm in Altrincham. If and when Mandy goes, the big question for me is who will he take down with him? Steve's in Cornwall, great part of the country. Morning, Mr. Kyle. When you think of the time span which covers Mandy and Andrew, who else has been corrupted by them both? They've hung around world leaders, movers and shakers for almost 30 years plus, and I'm pretty sure influenced and led others down the dark path. This does not need a regular police investigation. It needs something different. I, says Stephen Cornwall, would include the security services. Dave, in Lancashire, if Mandelson loses the title of law, will he be able to keep the title Prince of Darkness? Probably. Natasha has written the message that yes. Oh, and I'm such a royalist. I know you're very loyal to the late Queen, Jez, but what did she think the 12 million payoff was for that helped silence Virginia Giuffre? Cannot disagree. Graham, morning, JK and Poppy. A couple of things to think about. Mandelson is known as the Dark Lord for no reason. He's not known as that. What secrets does he know about the Labour Party that could bring them all down? Paul's in the Cotswold, Trump on Epstein. Anyone who went to that island knew what they were getting into and, more importantly, what Epstein was about. Dave, unfortunately, Andrew leaving the country won't stop or should stop it. The scandal or the press following him. He needs to open up. And finally, Sharon Miller. Like I said before, Beatrice and Eugenia need to be stripped of their prince's titles. They were 18 and 20 when they went to visit Epstein. They were old enough to go and decide, I'm not for their mother, right? But they need to take responsibility. Sorry, very quickly, Mick. Can you imagine if this was a Tory MP or a Reform MP? Every news channel would be full of Labour MPs screaming for their resignation when you consider the carry-on they made about a birthday cake. Very interesting. I'm not reading that, Chris in Hornchurch. All right. Hello, Poppy and her dad. Do you remember when Gordon Brown sold off all our gold at rock-bottom prices? Does anyone know if Mandelson was involved in that? Begs the question, doesn't it? At 7:30, want to try and get as many of the stories in the news in. Overnight, a Watchdogs reported that the prison service has failed to spend tens of millions of pounds earmarked for anti-drug security. It's the National Audit Office uncovered the huge underspends, right, despite prisons facing substantial increasing and rapidly changing threats from illegal drugs. It comes amid a huge rise in, have you ready for this, right, prisoners, just in their prison, just lean out the window, drone comes by, just drops off a bit of crack or whatever, bag or two of something illegal, straight into prison cells, right. Also, the probation service is failing. I'm sure it is. It's so much about the prison service is failing, but the fact that you can be serving perhaps life and just have your cocaine delivered by drone says an awful lot. We say a very good morning to Steve Gillen, General Secretary at the Prison Officers Association. Steve, before you say anything, I don't know why anybody would do your job, and I have the utmost ruddy respect for you lot. Honestly, apart from the couple of females that have slept with inmates, but how do you do your job anymore, my friend?
Well, look, I've been around the criminal justice system. I've been a serving prison officer in the past. I've been around for about 35 years. And of course, things are difficult. They've always been difficult, and it's been difficult working in prisons for my members. But the reality is there's been financial vandalism done since 2010 with the years of austerity by the previous government. And you reap what you sow. In many respects. And you hit the nail on the head about drones going up to sell windows, been driven by professional fires by organised crime gangs who hire them. It's destabilising our prisons, the amount of drugs getting in. And we've been warning about this since about 2015 on the effects of drones, the destabilisation, the violence against prisoner on prisoner and against our members. It's off the radar. And it's not just the prison service that's broken, it's the whole criminal justice system that's broken.
Well, I was going to say, one sees similarities, of course, between so many different parts of... We talk about police now, and they go on about there aren't enough men and women on the streets, and those are governed by woke bosses, and their priorities aren't what they were. I always think about the prison service. I've spent a lot of time talking to Vanessa Frake, that you know, your ability to control it with less numbers, with less training, who the hell would want to do that job? And presumably, if you try and defend yourself, the prisoner is called the victim, and you're hauled before an industrial tribunal, and the motivation to do it sort of becomes harder and harder. Just a question: the prison service has failed to spend tens of millions of pounds earmarked for anti-drug security. Why wouldn't they spend the money if it's there for them?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, and it's putting pressure not just on the prison service but on the NHS as well.
Yeah,
with the amount of prisoners being ferried to hospitals because they're out their head on spice and different things, and that does destabilise prisons with the violence and so forth. I mean, I could tell you the horror stories in the past. I'll spare you of that, but lots of our members have come home with life-changing injuries to their loved ones. Lots of people are leaving the job altogether because it's become so intolerable and so violent. And prison officers haven't got a retirement age the same as others. They're made to work to 68.
Isn't it frightening, though, that I mean, I'm old-fashioned, so I don't apologise for this. I always say, when I was growing up, you were scared of the police. Now you see youths in the street laughing at the police, and the police are powerless to do anything. You hear about prison officers who, through lack of training and investment and help, are surrounded by marauding prisoners who can fly drugs with drones through their prisons. Something's wrong. I'm sick and tired of all these lily-livered people who go, rehabilitation. I think if you've committed a crime, you should do your bleeding time. And I don't understand. I think it's part of this... I mean, honestly, Steve, I think it's part of society becoming softer by the minute, if you want me to be honest.
Well, look, I mean, society has changed. There's no doubt about that. Look, all political parties have been to blame, quite frankly. None of them get off the hook. I mean, I was just listening to your previous speaker, Sarah, the MP, and I've got to say, it was just... They've got no solutions, quite frankly, and the very people, the last government that caused a lot of the problems, actually, have now defected to reform. They've caused societal problems. So I don't think reform can make all the noise that they want. The debate has become about division and hatred, and I think that's quite wrong. To be honest with you, Jeremy,
the problem that I have with that, and I understand, I'm not sticking up for any political party here, right?
Neither am I.
I'm talking generally. I mean, I would have an argument with you about a discussion with you about the rehabilitation of prisoners. If I speak to a lot of people in the prison service, they go, "Oh yes, you know, you can do that." There are some people who are evil. There are some people who are bad. There are some people who cannot, right, be rehabilitated. There's talk about, you know, smaller sentences. These people shouldn't go to prison. You might laugh. I think if you get given 5 years, I've never damn well understood at 60 why you don't serve the 5 years. I completely agree that successive governments have underfunded prisons. They've put prison officers in a position where they are not able to carry out their duties, where they're in personal danger. That is a disgrace. And it is all part, in my humble, Steve, of this softening of, you know, oh, the perpetrator's the bloody victim. No, the victim's the person in society whose life's been tainted. Do your crime, and yes, learn from it and come back, but you're going to do your crime and you're going to understand what you did wrong. It's the same with the police. A good friend of mine's father was a bobby on the beat, and I remember, and I tell this all the time, and he would say, "I've left." "Why have you left?" He said, "Because in the old days, an old dear got her back door was taken off and somebody nicked her stuff, and you'd go around there for 3 hours." And he said, "You'd make her tea, you'd fix a new lock on the back door, you'd put your arm around her, you'd spend..." Now, he said, "I fill in 3 ticks on a box and she might see somebody a month's time. That's not what I joined for." And yet we've got a police force that puts people in prison for hurty words. And your story this morning about the drones, to me, forget the politics. I think our bloody priorities are wrong. I really do think our priorities are wrong.
Well, Jeremy, my union has been saying for many, many years that prisons should be about control, order and discipline.
Yep.
We can have debates all day about rehabilitation and does it work? Well, clearly it's not, because we've got record numbers of prisoners. So the reality is we're just warehousing people. I'm not sure that's a benefit for the general public, because lots of money has been spent incarcerating people. Surely we should be looking at keeping people out of prison for the right reasons. I 100% agree with you, and no one will ever change my mind. Victims should always come first.
Can I do this really quickly? I haven't got much time. James is in Stoke-on-Trent. It's a call. He wants to speak. James, go really quickly. Steve's on the line.
Hi, good morning. I used to work at one of the news prisons in the UK, and regarding the drones flying in, we had Wi-Fi blockers on the perimeter fence, but when they were turned on, they turned off the Wi-Fi for all the neighbouring houses. So the money spent on stopping drones coming in was irrelevant.
Unbelievable. Jesus
James,
Christ. Gentlemen, is that right? Is that right, Steve?
Well, we've been saying for some time there needs to be proper blockers and different things. Listen, I'm sure they've got the technology to stop drones coming in. They just won't spend the money. And you've just said there was an underspend. I've not read the full report yet because it was embargoed until midnight, but the headlines were pretty clear. It's a failing system and one we need to get to grips with through proper, considered measures that actually work. Otherwise, our prisons are going to get worse. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
Couldn't agree more. Listen, it's great to have you on. You and I agree on so much. Steve Gillen, General Secretary of the Prison Officers Association on Talk Breakfast. Thank you very much indeed. Morning, Mike.
Morning, Jeremy. Do you know, living in this country at the minute, it feels like being shown a nice big red apple, and then you go to bite into it and find out it's full of poison, and worse still, you're staring at the maggots. Honestly, that clip from Starmer, if that hasn't implicated himself, and I have to question the reporter. If that had been me, and he's talking about I'm concerned, or his concern of girls and what they went through, then why did his own party try to suppress about the Muslim rape gangs? I'm saying it for how it is. Great show.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Busy show this morning. Welcome to Wednesday's Talk Breakfast. Andrew's in the mire. Mandelson's facing a police inquiry. Keir Starmer is nervously awaiting Prime Minister's question times on how much he knew. We say a very good morning to a lady who I want all the time to be on this show. Isabel Oakeshott talks international. How are you?
Good morning. Well, just absorbing the full scale of this unfolding catastrophe for Keir Starmer and looking forward, getting my popcorn ready for Prime Minister's questions at lunchtime, because that is going to be quite dramatic. And for once, Keir Starmer is actually there, unless he finds himself some excuse to jet off somewhere. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him, would you?
It's really interesting, the Mandelson thing. It's all over the Sun. It's over every newspaper, and the photos and the videos. I mean, they're absolutely they're as sordid as hell. But we have to cut to the chase, Isabel. Overnight, he faces a criminal investigation for having leaked secrets about this country's government to a convicted paedophile whilst he was a cabinet minister. There's so much to this story, which is, I mean, that is a prisonable offence, and I have no doubt he's going to end up in prison, and I can say that confidently. But you make such a great point. Starmer, this man, right, this Mandelson has had so many comebacks. We said it yesterday, comebacks from lying about passports, lying about loans. Gordon Brown, who I never agreed with, is indignant and has reported that he's gone to the Metropolitan Police overnight. He is accusing Number 10 of a cover-up. The question for me is, how much dirt must he have on so many people in the Labour Party to still be breathing politically, Isabel?
Yeah, quite. It's astonishing, isn't it? You know, I was just running through in my mind all the incredible jobs that Peter Mandelson managed to get, you know, from his multiple cabinet roles to remember he was an EU Trade Commissioner for the UK, casting back many years. That's a massive job, huge money involved in that. And then that highest diplomatic position of all, the UK's ambassador to Washington, a member of the House of Lords. There's almost no bauble that this guy didn't manage to accumulate whilst constantly falling off his perch and being allowed to get back on it. And I think the really dangerous political thing for Starmer now focuses in on what the intelligence services told him, what his advisors told him about the wisdom or otherwise of giving Peter Mandelson that frontline diplomatic role at the time that Mandelson was being considered for the Washington job. And Dan Hodges has actually written a brilliant comment piece in the Mail today.
He has.
We often have him on Talk. And he's pointing out that Keir Starmer had every available means to ask his US intelligence sources, you know, our intelligence allies. He always goes on, doesn't he, about how important that intelligence sharing relationship is. So surely he asked intelligence services over there, knowing that they had these huge files on Epstein, whether there was anything more that the UK government should know about Mr. Mandelson, Lord Mandelson, before he was given that tremendously sensitive position. So did he ask? And if he did ask, did he then ignore the answer, or did he not ask, in which case that is an astonishing dereliction of duty? It is reported that numerous red flags were initially raised by our own experts in the intelligence services about the wisdom and propriety of appointing Mandelson, but using the usual back channels, they were told, guys, the PM's really keen on this. He really does want to give Mandy the job. So could you just sort of find a way to maybe turn those red flags into sort of pale amber ones? Would that be all right? And that seems to be what happened.
And you're so right. And there's also information that the Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, who's mired up to his neck in so much, is apparently, or has always been, close to Peter Mandelson. There was that unedifying view that he was in Downing Street, not in the front, round the back. He went a few months ago when there was a cabinet reshuffle and, you know, apparently still an influenced person. I cannot, in my wildest dreams, imagine that Starmer didn't know. I said it at the beginning, I'll say it again. If he didn't, he's a puppet, an incompetent puppet who needs to go. And he can go because his cabinet could force him out. If he's covered this up and it highlights a bigger problem inside the Labour Party, that this odious slime ball seems to have mess on so many of them, I think that will bring down the government. I think Dan Hodges is right, and Isabel's alluding to a great piece in the Mail. So the Epstein affair is the biggest political scandal of my lifetime. Our Prime Minister says he knew nothing about it. This is why I don't believe him. Give that a read today. Straight question, do you think this brings down the Prime Minister?
I think it's a combination of things. I think it may prove to be the last straw. I don't think it'll happen quickly. It's really mechanically very difficult to get rid of Labour leaders that want to stay put. And we know that he is desperate to cling to office. But it really feels like a sort of final chapter in his catastrophic premiership. And some of us are beginning to wonder what is coming next. And could it possibly be any worse? Bad news, folks. I actually think it could be.
Apparently somebody texted me this morning and said, I agree with that, by the way, that the two people that cleared Mandelson to be the UK's ambassador to the United States were, of course, Keir Starmer, but also Calamity Lammy, who turned out to be a junior minister years ago under, oh yes, Lord Mandelson. You just wonder with all of these people, man.
I mean, in a sense, I just don't even think anyone needed to go into any detail to know that Peter Mandelson was a highly, highly dangerous appointee for that job. You know, you and I could have said, are you serious? You really bringing this guy back? I mean, his track record is of repeated massive errors of judgment. And as Kev was joking last night, he's not so clever that he doesn't keep getting caught.
No, and let's talk about that. And I heard Kev say that. Somebody said earlier, not only on a government email of which records would exist, you wonder what he actually said to Mandelson, to Epstein in person. I mean, you want to get past the unedified. Have you seen the latest pictures? I mean, yesterday we had the pants. This morning we've got him with some young man putting his socks on. But perhaps the most unedifying is him walking down the street in 2009 with his dog with a sweatshirt on that belongs to Jeffrey Epstein saying J.E. I mean, the whole thing is weird. I don't even want to get to the sexual side of it because he tried that yesterday saying, I'm gay, I didn't know what was going on. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about how this man flouted. Maybe he felt that he was above the law, Isabel.
Oh, I think that happens to politicians, even at fairly low levels in Westminster. I've seen, you know, the way that characters change once they're in the palace of Westminster and they have all these people running around after them. That happens at MP level. It happens at backbencher level. So imagine what happens to someone that moves in these gilded circles. And I think what is so repellent to ordinary voters who are just damn well trying to get by and feel that this government throws everything in their way, puts every obstacle in their way of earning a little bit more money than is just the basic to be able to have a good time. What is really repellent is this impression that there is a gilded circle of global elites that just look after each other. They circulate around Davos, they go to the same parties, they pat each other on the back, and perhaps they trade little trade secrets that potentially make, if not hundreds of millions, certainly tens of millions, maybe billions, who knows? These sums of money are far out of reach of any of the voters over which these people quite literally lord it. And as for the wearing of that T-shirt, you know, that brings to mind one of the first scandals of Starmer's premiership. Keir Starmer wearing Lord Ali's provided clothes. What is it with this lot and their clothes provided by other people? I mean, this isn't normal, is it?
No, it's not. And you're going to have to come on every morning because I look forward to seeing you in the morning. Can I just say something? You just said, and I quote, characters change when they go to the House of Commons, even lowly MPs. Operation Ring is still going on. Richard Tice, self-styled love man. You know, I love you, Isabel, I'm going to buy you a ring. Any news in the last 24 hours? Have we got an engagement? People are worried about this situation.
Listen, you can't do updates every 24 hours, or the poor man, I might start worrying for his mental health. He'll be under such pressure.
Sod his mental health. If you were my fiancé, I'd have put a ring on your finger about 3 months ago. I think he's out of order and needs to get his head sorted.
He is too busy doing what he hopes and believes is the best job that he can for his constituents. And I can say that is one MP who has not let it go to his head.
He sent me a text saying, if you have a go at me enough, she'll defend me. I did that right. Isabel, thank you very...
did.
See you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Isabel Oakeshott on Talk Breakfast, 9 minutes to 8. Good morning, Neil.
Morning, Jeremy. It's Neil in Basingstoke here. Just on the Mandelson-Starmer thing. I think this has got to bring Starmer down. The point is, he can't just keep saying, I didn't know, I wasn't briefed, didn't come across my desk, I didn't have all the information. He's the Prime Minister. He should have the information. Any good leader, and he should be a leader, but he isn't, should have the people around him. He puts the people around him that give him that information.
I have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America.
That is why I said the use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong.
You know, the fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land. We're not going to have Russia or China occupy Greenland. So we're going to be doing something with Greenland, either the nice way or the more difficult way.
Any decision about the future status of Greenland belongs to the people of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. News at 8 on the way. My next guest, though, wrote an incredible book entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York. We say a very good morning to Andrew Loney. Andrew, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Nice to talk to you again.
Absolutely. Great to have you on. I'm a self-styled royalist, but this is something, I don't know, maybe I did see it coming. Did you see it coming? This man's life is over. He's been booted out of Royal Lodge. What happens next to the ex-Duke of York in your mind, Andrew?
Well, I did see it coming because actually I had a lot of this material. No one believed it, and it was taken out of the book. So this is sort of good to see it all confirmed. I mean, both he and Sarah Ferguson are finished. I think there's a strong case now, particularly since Mandelson's been investigated, for him to be investigated under the misconduct in public office. I think there's also a strong case to investigate Andrew under sex trafficking. We've got so many revelations of women being trafficked to him, and that is a crime. It's nothing to do with underage. But whether he will be charged, I think, is very unlikely. I think he'll do like Juan Carlos, nip off to Dubai before that happens. And I think the interesting question is what happens to Sarah Ferguson.
Yeah, I mean, two separate things. He I mean, somebody said to me this morning, it's not going to be enough to move him from house to house. I think the repugnant nature of so many of these accusations that you quite rightly say you raised and people didn't believe, I think he's going to be followed and forced. I mean, maybe abroad is the answer. I'm rather cynical. I'm waiting for somebody to say everybody needs to stop attacking him because of his mental health. I'd like to think more about the victims, that he and his paedophile friends did what they did to.
They have been putting out that. The PR machine has been pumping that out. But I actually talked to a member of his staff last week, and he still doesn't think he's done anything wrong. He can't understand it. He thinks he's been victimized. He's shown no remorse. So that's part of the problem.
He's always been like that, though, hasn't he? He's always been very entitled and somebody who perhaps doesn't see any form of reality. It's a difficult question, the next one, and I struggled with this earlier, but I'll put it to you. Somebody said, I am a fervent royalist and I miss Her Majesty, but what did she think the £12 million payoff to Virginia Giuffre was for then?
Well, I'm afraid that the Queen is also responsible for this, partly for indulging him throughout his life and protecting him. And I mean, many complaints were brought to her during her reign, which she ignored. Complaints by the heads of the Foreign Office, by MI6 and others. So I'm afraid, you know, unfortunate it is, that's what I found. And I was heavily criticised when I raised this point in August. But now, indeed, even Buckingham Palace are briefing that that was the case. So I'm afraid, you know, we always thought she put the monarchy before her family, but not in this situation.
Controversial, but painfully probably true. Straight question to you, Andrew. Does the ex-Duke of York end up in prison, in your mind?
Well, I think there's a very strong case to be made against him on so many counts, but whether he will ever be charged or convicted, I just don't know. As I say, I think it's more likely he'll do a midnight flit because the royal family do not want all this aired in court. It's shades of the Burrell case all over again.
Let's bring it to Sarah Ferguson. You touched upon her front page of the Mail this morning, Sarah Vine. What motivated Sarah Ferguson to take her young daughters to visit a convicted paedophile? A different angle, my question, really. I yesterday said disgusting, they were 8 and 10, and I was corrected by somebody who said to me, no, they were 18 and 20, and many people are saying, you know your mind at 18 and 20. Do you think the girls are implicated in any way, Andrew?
Well, the girls were very much under her thumb, and she took them off to meet every famous person she knew, and that's what they've done. They've sort of swapped contact books. I mean, they were taken on some of his trade-funded trips as a special envoy to build their contacts. Certainly, I've got a lot of information which I didn't put in the book about the daughters' activities. These are financial activities, particularly in the Middle East. And we have seen, for example, Beatrice promoting a Saudi Arabian bank recently. So I think the king would be very unwise to bring them too close into the royal fold, because I think there are some more skeletons in that cupboard.
There's undoubtedly skeletons in the York household, and the book, I mean, I've read it, it's brilliant. Do you think that the royal family, we talk publicly distancing themselves? Do you think anybody, any of them, are still speaking to Andrew or Fergie at all?
Well, I mean, we get contradictory reports. I know that Charles gave an undertaking to his mother to take care of Andrew. Who knows what's going on behind the scenes? But I do worry that Andrew has been enabled and protected by the whole network of the royal family, of diplomats, courtiers and others, and they haven't entirely come clean. I would like to know from the royal family what they knew, when they knew it, what they did about it, and what they're now going to do about it, because I think public opinion is not going to be assuaged by just leaving Royal Lodge and losing his title.
I think that's the point. I think public opinion, the silent majority, are so invested in the unfairness, and I use that word repeatedly of this story, the privileged, entitled unfairness of Andrew's story, when everybody's grafting and trying to make a living and dealing with all of the stuff that we deal with. I'm not sure him slinking away, as you quite rightly say, is going to be enough, and I think the king is going to have to outline what he knew, when he knew, and what he's going to do. He does have the power to
make itself fit for purpose, the 21st century, or it can continue down its secretive ways, and it's then going to lose public support. So this, I think, in many ways is an opportunity for them, but whether they will grasp it is another question.
Andrew Lowney, thank you so much. It's great to have you on. Delighted to speak to you again. And a really interesting book, by the way, entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York. Andrew will be back on this show very, very soon. He says a seminal moment for the royal family. They need to speak out. How much did they know and when did they know it? Will he be banished? Will he slink off to the Middle East? He and Mandelson dominating the news for the 38th day on the trot, but it is literally everywhere. Lord Mandelson, massive, massive voice for Labour, facing a criminal investigation, could be heading to jail. The big question is, how much did our Prime Minister know? PMQs today at midday will be hugely interesting. But, my friends, we're heading to the news at 8. We're back with Ben Habib, leader of Advanced UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. Just gone 8 o'clock. It's Wednesday, the 4th of Feb. We're live across the United Kingdom on Talk, the home of free speech, the home of common sense, and the home of alarm clock Brits. Thanks for tuning in. My God, it's everywhere. The murky world of Epstein dominating every single paper. Front page of The Sun, the Princes of Darkness, Andrew, formerly the Duke of York, leaving Royal Lodge by the dead of night, heading to exile in Norfolk. Many people saying it's not enough. More allegations about him overnight. 250 grand he and Epstein were being sued for by a prostitute after an alleged threesome. I know it's pretty sordid, but it's a fact. There's allegations of more trafficking that could result in criminal prosecutions against him. The royal family under pressure to come clean about what they knew. And Mandelson, great, the man who was the architect of New Labour, the man who's got more lives than a cat. I mean, extraordinary. Given this job and resigning in disgrace, pictures and emails overnight resigning from the House of Lords, at the weekend resigning from Labour. But many people saying today he's going to jail in his underpants. But what about the Prime Minister of this country, a man whose judgment is continually called into to focus? Prime Minister's questions today. He's going to get it. And I know exactly what he's going to do. He's going, it's under a police investigation. I can't do anything. But they have responded already this morning. Sir Keir Starmer has announced he's going to publish key documents relating to his appointment of Mandelson as ambassador to the United States. The government will release those files later today. Here's my question, right? Why didn't you release them before then? I don't have any confidence in a man who either gave Mandelson this job knowing his background and knowing the security checks would have brought these things up, or even worse, if he was told that this man was a liability, that he's that bleeding incompetent that he gave him the job anyway. Don't leave talk today. Julia will cover that in PMQs. Now, here's a man who I haven't spoke to. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'll do Tony first while I gear up my next guest. Tony, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Tony from Enfield. Great show. Do you remember that time when Starmer was at a banquet dinner and he made Mandelson the ambassador for trade to America? And then Starmer said, we just simply know him as Peter. Well, I bet Starmer wished he never knew him now.
Couldn't agree more. 6 minutes past 8. Here's a man you've called for. I haven't spoken to him for ages. We're delighted to have him back. Leader of Advance UK, Ben Habib. Hello, me old son. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. It's always so lovely to see you and so upbeat. Great to see you.
You're looking very regal with the red wall and the red tie, Habib. Looking nice. Mate, where do we start? Let's start with the self-styled Dark Lord. And let's be serious for a second. You are, like me, somebody who I think is proud of, or was proud of, what this country stood for and its values. The accusation that will be part of a criminal investigation, the Met promising this overnight, is that whilst a cabinet minister, Peter Mandelson leaked financial aspects and secrets of Gordon Brown's government, right, despite signing the Official Secrets Act, to a convicted paedophile. That can only mean, if it's true, that he goes to jail, can't it, Ben Habib?
Absolutely. And I think the other point to make, if I may, Jeremy, is that Epstein was not just a convicted paedophile, but he was an active player on Wall Street, making money at the expense, effectively, of the British taxpayer, because he was getting privileged information from Mandelson and no doubt trading on it. And I think what we're beginning to see is a revelation of how big power over the last 25, 30 years has got into bed with big money. You mentioned Mandelson having 9 lives. Well, he's got 9 lives, I suspect, because lots of his peer group, also in the Labour Party, in historic governments and so on, were equally complicit, perhaps not as egregiously as him, but equally, implicated in other misdemeanors, taking donations from people they shouldn't have taken, taking free flights. The other thing that staggers me, just digressing very quickly, but the other thing that staggers me is the very small amounts of money for which these people are prepared, apparently, to sell their soul and sell their country down the drain. Mandelson did it, seemingly, for $25,000 and 4,000 quid a month to his husband. These people have no moral compass. They've got no depth. And this coming together of big money and big power needs to be really blown out of the water. We need a really big light shone on that. You mentioned Starmer. Well, we all know Starmer's wife's dresses are bought for her by Lord Ali. We still don't really understand the relationship between Lord Ali and Starmer, why he was buying him spectacles, why he gets to go and hold parties in Number 11 whenever he wishes to do it. These people are all using their office for personal enrichment, for personal advancement, and it is the British taxpayer and the British state, our security and our state itself, that suffers as a result of it.
I couldn't agree more, and I know this actually isn't political. The Tories were a ramshackle bunch of liars at the end of their 14 years, and I have to say this. All we heard about was this will be a different government, this will be a clean government. I mean, you look at the corruptions minister is being done for corruption in Bangladesh, the Transport Secretary sacked for stealing a mobile phone, the Homeless Minister sacked for throwing people out of a rented accommodation. It's utterly farcical. But today, and I'm so with you, I think, Ben, we've reached a point where the British people, both politically and morally, for want of a better description, are at a point where they're not going to accept any more BS. I've said this for a long time. I got a text some months ago from a guy who said, you know what, Jez, when the silent majority realise that their voice can be heard, whatever government is in power is in trouble. And you're absolutely right. Power and money, privileged entitlement. You can look at Andrew under the same microscope. I think for hard-working Brits who are really, really bloody well struggling, I think it's another kick in the teeth. And I don't think that Starmer and his government will get away with saying, oh, it's under investigation, I can't talk about it. I really don't.
No. They thought they could get away with it. That's why they did it. And they're all in the same wretched, filthy, putrid bed together. And they don't really see each other really as having done anything wrong until they get rumbled. It's when they get rumbled, they suddenly become contrite, humble, and offer up the information. Yeah, I mean, you said exactly the same thing in your opening remarks. Why didn't they offer up these files before? We now know that MI5 was warning Starmer about appointing Mandelson as ambassador. Well, if you've got your own security services saying don't trust this guy, well, first of all, why the hell is he in the Lords? And second of all, why are you giving him this pivotally important position? No doubt there would have been some monetary involvement even in his appointment as ambassador. There would have been some favour being exercised or taken. And the question is, what information do third parties have on other politicians in our in the political class, those in office and those in opposition? How compromised are our parliamentarians and our government if our ambassador to the US, who's had these 9 lives, could be so utterly disgusting in the way that he carried out his life?
I completely agree. You talk about, Starmer. Let's look at it. You talked about the security services. If your security services raise objections, you'd have a brain cell to say, I'm going to listen to that. He didn't listen to them about the Chinese embassy, and we all know that he disappeared off to China, kowtowing to them and trying to do a trade deal. And the only reason he tried to do that is because he screwed the economy in the United Kingdom with his economic policy. And now he's going to sign up to a country that's human rights record, ironically, is the worst in the world. It's the same with this. It's about privilege and it's about entitlement. Do you think he'll go to jail? Because I do.
I do. I think he will go to jail. And I hope in the process of going to jail, there is a very, very penetrative microscope that goes into orifices that haven't ever been looked at before, and other people join him in jail. This doesn't start and stop with Mandelson.
No, I agree.
No way. This must roll on and on and on.
I completely agree. Can we bring it on very quickly to Andrew? I mean, I was just talking to Andrew Loney about the ex-Duke of York. I mean, he's been booted out of Royal Lodge in the dark of night. I again don't think that's going to be enough for people. I think he's going to have to leave this country. But Andrew Loney said something that's interesting. He thinks that the royal family, as the tide changes, are going to have to come out and explain what they knew and how much they knew. Where are you on this, Ben?
Well, I completely agree. I think Prince Andrew was used by Epstein. Epstein fed him what Andrew wanted, which was obviously equally disgusting. Young girls, I don't know if they were underage at the time or not, but absolutely predatory behavior by Andrew. And that addiction was fed by Epstein. And Epstein undoubtedly used that to control Andrew and would have got, again, positions that he shouldn't have had, introductions he shouldn't have had, information he shouldn't have had, as a result of the hold that he had on Andrew. It's obvious, isn't it? That's why he did it all. It's also why the Chinese spies were getting up close to Andrew. Do you remember last year we discovered that in his inner circles, Andrew was potentially giving away national security secrets to Chinese spies. I mean, this is absolutely absurd. And again, just to go back to the next comment you made, we know what China's up to, and yet Starmer is sidling up to China.
And how ironic is that, as the self-styled king of human rights, who, wants to give the Chagos Islands back without speaking to Chagossians, because that's the right thing to do, to apologise for all the atrocities that Great Britain carried out. But at the same time, interestingly, you're currying favour with, well, the worst human rights regime in the world, and your mate's going to work for a paedophile, and you turn a blind eye, and you won't do a Rotherham grooming gangs inquiry. Too many questions. Too many questions.
Rotten to the core is rotten to the core. 4 words that sum him up.
Do you think he falls? Do you think, genuine question, that he will fall over this? This government could fall over this, because I think it's a really seminal moment in British politics.
I do. He made him ambassador to the United States of America, in possession of information from our security services, advising him to think twice, and he still pushed ahead. He's got to go. He's got to go. On multiple counts, any historic crime. When we had some self-respect as a country, the most minor indiscretions would have resulted in the Prime Minister resigning. Now, it seems that you can have a weight of evidence against you in the most sort of awful, examples, and yet they still hold on.
Well, I'll tell you how I put it, and I'm not sticking up for him. Boris Johnson had to resign over having a piece of cake. I don't want to get into a vax debate and his lies about net zero. That is a fact. This guy, do you know that his approval rating, people will laugh, is lower than Maduro's was when he was taken out of Venezuela by Trump? To me, it is incredulous, Ben, that he's still in power. Incredulous, I am.
I mean, really, there should be an election. Of course, turkeys don't vote for Christmas, so the Labour Party will hang on to power for as long as possible. But this is, as you said, they came into office saying they were going to be the grown-ups, they were going to restore confidence in public institutions and so on, and yet they have a polling rating that is even lower than what the Tories had at the Tories' worst point when they were in government. That says a hell of a lot.
Listen, it's great to have you back. I want you to come on regularly. I know it's a bit busy today, but Ben Habib, Advance UK, thank you so much for coming on Talk Breakfast 8:15. Let's cross, proving, of course, that politicians in the House of Parliament, some are not sordid human beings who are basically entitled. Some of them stand out in the wind and the rain. Kevin Hollinrake, chairman of the Conservative Party. There's a hard-working man. How are you, Kevin?
Good morning, Jeremy. Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm all right. I think Ben Habib raised quite an interesting point there, actually, around this whole Mandelson saga. On a serious note, Kevin, as a politician yourself, it must worry you that the public keep seeing, there's an idiot, keep seeing these situations arise amongst our elected officials. Overnight, the Met Police saying that Mandelson will now face a criminal investigation for, I mean, if it's true, leaking official secrets. He's got to go to jail, hasn't he, Kevin Hollinrake?
Oh, disgraceful. I mean, just to point out, of course, Peter Mandelson this time wasn't elected. He was appointed to Israel's ambassador to the US, one of the top jobs in politics, by Keir Starmer. And, of course, all these scandal, people will think all politicians are corrupt. You know that's not true. I know that's not true. The vast majority of people go into politics do for the right reasons and seek to represent their constituents to the best of their ability. But clearly, Peter Mandelson was a wrong-un. We didn't know the scale of his wrongdoings until all these recent revelations, but we knew that he had to resign from cabinet twice before.
Yeah.
Also, we knew he had these connections to Epstein, yet despite all that knowledge, Keir Starmer still appointed him to one of the top jobs in politics. I mean, his judgment is terrible. We said so at the time that this was a mistake, so did many other people in the media. I'm sure you criticised it at the time. And then we had to hold Starmer to account for protecting Mandelson, declaring his full confidence in Mandelson. It was only when Kemi Badenoch held him to account at the dispatch box that again he reiterated his support for Mandelson, and only the day later, of course, he effectively sacked him. So I mean, it's the judgment of the Prime Minister, it's the weakness of the Prime Minister.
I am with you 100%. I mean, we've announced, or they've announced in the last 20 minutes, number 10, that he's set to publish key documents relating to his appointment of Mandelson as an ambassador to the US later today. Too little, too late. Prime Minister's question time, Kevin, will be explosive today. We know that Kemi Badenoch is going to hold him to task. But the truth of the matter is, for me, Mandelson needs to go to jail. Potentially the Duke of York might follow him. But the Prime Minister of this country, I mean, to me, it doesn't wash. If you are that incompetent, you didn't know about Mandelson because you either didn't ask your security services or you wanted to turn a blind eye. That's a good enough reason for you to be out of the job. And if you did know, and presumably there are many people who think, OK, that he's got so much mud, Mandelson, on so many people that that's why he came back again and again and again, that's another reason to say that this government is rotten to the core, isn't it?
Well, he may well fall over this, but let's just bear in mind here that the reason these documents have been revealed is because we've forced their release.
Yeah.
We put together a procedure today called the Humble Address, not used very often in Parliament, but it's meant his backbenchers would have had to voted against the release of those documents. They were never going to do that, which is why Keir Starmer, again, because he's got no backbone, he's a very weak Prime Minister, he's caved in again to his backbenchers, but because of this pressure we're putting on him. But Kemi Badenoch, of course, will hold him to account yet again today at the dispatch box. I'm sure he's not looking forward to that interrogation, but the reality is Keir Starmer is on borrowed time. Just about every Labour member of Parliament you speak to knows he is in a complete mess. He's U-turn after U-turn. He's weak. He has no backbone. We need a strong leader for this country, and Keir Starmer is not it.
Just before you go, I know you're a busy man. The idiot's still behind you with this thing. Ignore him. He hasn't got any sort of record in office, Keir Starmer. Although today he's only one boat away from claiming Britain's worst ever small boats record. He's one boat shy of achieving what Boris the letdown Johnson achieved in 3 years. Nearly 66,000 illegal migrants will have come into this country in the 18 months this man's been in power. Another politician with absolutely no answer of how to deal with this bloody problem, Kevin.
Well, is it apt? But we had an answer, though. You know, we had an answer, Jeremy. We had the legislation in place. The Rwanda scheme, he didn't like it because he thought it was some kind of human rights basis. It would have meant anybody arriving in this country by small boats would have been put on a plane and gone back to the home country or backed over to Rwanda. He had that in place. Instead, he thought he knew better. He thought he'd smashed the gangs. We told him that was farcical. They've been trying to do that in the drug industry for 50 years, for Christ's sake. We knew that wouldn't work. He wouldn't listen. He knew better, scrapped our legislation. We could have solved this problem by now, and yet Keir Starmer carried on because he knew best, smashed the gangs. There were no gangs being smashed. Instead, as you say, 66,000 people coming over on small boats. It's absolutely horrendous.
Kevin, really appreciate your time this morning, and the man behind you, forget him. It's good to have you on, my friend. Chairman of the Conservative Party, Kevin Hollinray. 8:22, we're live across the United Kingdom. JK on Breakfast on Talk. Good morning, Lisa.
Morning, Jez. It's Lisa from Canterbury. Regarding all this scandal with Andrew and Mandelson, although obviously, you know, whatever they've done is a terrible thing, but it does make me question why it's only these two that have been brought into question and why other men or any other people have not been highlighted, because there must be hundreds and thousands of all these very elite men that are in the files.
Jeremy Clarkson, a pub owner, he wrote a very scathing piece in The Sun this weekend saying that reform sounds great until you ask what they actually do beyond stopping the boats.
I think what he's done for farming is fantastic. I think he's woken the country up to how blooming difficult actually being a farmer is. So I can tell you, Jeremy, there's a constructive plan for pubs that also cuts the welfare bill. I'm sure he will approve thoroughly of that. And you can tell him we're working very, very hard on a proper agricultural policy as well.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 8:25. We are live across the UK. It's Talk Breakfast. And before we continue, it's the daily hello to Oliver and Iris, who are sat in the car, because Ollie won't go into school until I tell everybody that Ollie Kyle is the coolest dude in the world. Iris, weird video yesterday. Start naked, putting a lipstick on, age 2, and dominating the household. Love you both. See you later. We say a very good morning. It's all going on here this morning. Samara Gill's arrived now. How are you?
Good. I did something pretty similar yesterday, so I don't mind Iris's moves.
Right, sorry. You did something similar as my 2-year-old daughter yesterday.
It's a female thing.
What, putting your lipstick on and
yeah, you wouldn't understand.
Fantastic,
Jeremy.
what a start to my morning. Morning, Jez. So pleased you have Ben on. He's a brilliant commentator and has much value to say. Sarah, loved having him on. So Roger from Wales, is it? How are you doing, Roger? Why did I do that? So Starmer's going to release documents on the assessment of Mandelson. I take it'll be selective documents. Yeah, Mike in Lincoln. Morning, Mike. Good morning, Jez. We all know Starmer's going to claim he knew nothing. Why did I do that about the Prince of Darkness and Epstein when appointing him as ambassador to the US? But this won't wash. He is the man at the head of Labour, our Prime Minister, and it was his decision. Can I just remind people, and I never forgot this, right? I remember, and I'm very angry with him still, Boris Johnson. I remember when he dared to stand up and say, and you, Starmer, head of the Director of Public Prosecutions, let Savile, that vile paedophile, through your fingertips. And everybody went, how can you bring that up? And I remember Starmer going, listen, I was in charge, but there are many people working underneath me. It's not my responsibility. And yet Boris Johnson had to fall on his sword as the boss of this country because of people underneath that made decisions. The same should apply to Keir Starmer. He is an utter disgrace. And Samara Gill, we hope that today at Prime Minister's Question Time he's skewered, but I doubt it, because he'll say, I can't talk about it, it's being investigated.
He's such a lawyer, isn't he? I mean, you're completely right, though. He's been actively destroying the country for years and years and years, and him becoming the PM was basically the penultimate slap in the face and sort of linchpin moment for the country. So I don't know what's going to happen, but he definitely won't get skewered, that's for sure. And Kemi's not capable of it, or whoever.
Can you move your hair from your mic, I'm told?
Yes,
Sorry about that. Yeah,
gosh,
just throw it
technicals.
back. Sean from Bridlington. I was once offered a summer season in Bridlington. Did you know that, Dave, with one leg? Yeah. Starmer's answers to the PMQ's questions today is going to be absolutely right. She's going to go, what did you know about Mandelson? What did you know? And he's going to go, we've created breakfast clubs. We've got the NH waiting list down. NHS appointments are down. We've lifted 450,000 children out of poverty. We're the fastest G7 economy in 2025. And I've done some trade deals. Did I miss anything, Sean? No, you're absolutely right. That is exactly what that man will say.
Totally. And Kemi gets all this, within the Westminster bubble. Oh, look at her on the dispatch box. Or look at that speech she randomly made. She's also not making any waves. I think it's really annoying, sort of, that we have this weird Conservative Party that's falling apart at the seams, also holding Labour to account, because they're not holding them to account.
At the risk of me being called biased, even not Ed Davey, wouldn't you love to see reform? Wouldn't you love to see Nigel take it at some point? I don't understand why more than one opposition leader can't have questions on a more regular basis. I'll include all the other leaders in that, the Liberal Democrats, the man representing the Greens, whatever he's called, Hypno-Tits, as I've said it before.
Well, he's not even an MP.
No, he's not even an MP. Now, this is an extraordinary piece of work. So much to talk about on the show today. Tell me about Shahid Butt. You've gone and done the most extraordinary interview.
Well, Shahid Butt, I mean, he made massive headlines last week because everyone was in uproar, rightly so, about a convicted terrorist running to be a councillor in Birmingham. So that's who he is. He was convicted in Yemen. He was convicted of plotting to bomb a British consulate as well as a Swiss hotel, among other things.
Sorry. I was away. A convicted
Yes, much
terrorist
happened.
who threatened to bomb the British consulate
Yes.
in Yemen
Yes.
is standing to be a councillor in Birmingham.
Correct.
And you've interviewed him.
I did interview him.
No wonder they didn't send me.
I know, because they should have, but you would have absolutely sort of decimated the man. Look, he says that he's a reformed individual. I went in there with an open mind, okay? Let's listen to what he had to say about his textured past.
OK, play it.
Now, obviously, this background led you to plotting bomb attacks. Why should listeners or sort of voters listen to a word that you say?
Well, first and foremost, the actual charges against me, as I did from day one when I actually got into court in 1999, I denied all the charges. I told the judge that I was tortured, that the charges, were all false and made up. So I've maintained that from that time until now, that they were all false charges to the system.
But every appeal that you did do did fail.
Well, no, because as far as the law is concerned, this happened outside the British jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
So, like on my DBS, I don't have anything on there. My DBS is clean, other than the conviction that I have in this country, which was in the mid-90s for some other stuff that was happening here.
What was that conviction?
That was just around some of the stuff I got involved in around fighting and violence and stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
Look, let's be clear here. I'm not trying to make out that I'm this goody-goody two-shoes kind of guy. Yeah, I've had a checkered past. I've been involved in stuff that I do regret, but you have to understand the circumstance that I grew up in. I didn't grow up in a privileged society or in a privileged family or in a privileged way. I grew up on the streets.
Right, so I'm sorry, I know it's 8:30 and I know I'm going to get into trouble. I know many people who grew up on the streets and they didn't bomb people, you arrogant piece of crap. Are you joking me? I've written this down. Outside of my conviction over there, which I deny, I got into a bit of trouble here for fighting.
Yeah,
Sorry.
just a bit.
And the irony is this, that piece of rubbish will probably be elected in Birmingham. I haven't mentioned this. Has he mentioned the bins? Not a thing. He's going to stand all about Gaza. There's rubbish all over Birmingham and that git's going to be elected. That's what's wrong with this country.
Well, you're completely right. He's a pro-Gaza MP.
Of course he is. Of course he is.
Let's just hear what he had to say about Hamas.
Really? Oh,
because he's
God.
a reformed individual,
No,
Jeremy.
No, go on.
You now condemn Islamic extremism without any qualification?
Again, you need to.
It's a yes or no.
No,
I mean,
but we need to define what we're talking about here. If you're talking about groups like ISIS and Al Qaeda, of course I condemn that.
Right.
Yeah, they're
what
criminals.
about Hamas?
Hamas is a legitimate group that is fighting for the freedom of the Palestinians.
Okay, so they're not a terrorist organisation?
No.
Okay. So October the 7th, that was justified?
October the 7th was a reflection of what was going on there. I'm against the killing of any innocent civilians of any religion. It's not acceptable. And if that's what's happened, and as it seems that is what happened, then obviously it's condemnable.
What you're accused of is trying to blow up British institutions. So how should we trust you to now run one?
Well, I can tell you one thing. I'll do a damn sight better job than the current Labour incumbents that are sitting there right now, who have turned our city into a dump. We have councillors that don't speak English, that can't read and write, and yet they're getting elected. Why is the Labour allowing these kind of candidates to be elected? I will do a much better job than them. And like I said, I'm innocent of all the charges that were levelled against me, so I wasn't plotting to do anything. And for the last 30 years, almost 30 years, that's the question. What have I been doing in those 30 years since then? I've been working in the community. I've been working with West Midlands Police around antisocial behaviour and drugs and anti-gangs. I've worked with the Home Office on de-radicalisation programmes. I am one of the main guys on this de-radicalisation programme. Why? Because of my background.
This is madness.
Right, I patently understand that I've been ambushed this morning by the production team here. I'm sorry. That going to Birmingham on Monday. Hamas is a legitimate organisation, and October the 7th was a reflection on what's going on. Are you joking? The amount of Jewish friends I've got? No. Jewish people were murdered, and I can't even tell you what happened on October the 7th. That man is going to run for office. He says, I've been working with the West Midlands Police Force.
Great.
This is just Jeremy Carr's opinion. One of the most corrupt police forces this country has ever bleeding well seen. Fact. Unbelievable. How is he going to be elected? What am I doing?
Well, I think it's more of an expose, really. It's actually quite good to know that these are his thoughts. This is someone who wants to be within British government. I mean, it was absolutely appalling what he thought of Hamas. And I will just state that afterwards, his so-called media advisor or someone who was there in the room said, brother, we don't say that about Hamas. They're a prescribed terrorist organisation.
Okay.
Just want to clarify that. Just want to clarify that. Well, I don't take it because clearly I doubled down on that. I asked him 2 times. He doesn't think Hamas is a terrorist organisation. Therefore, I don't think he's a reformed individual. All this crap about, oh, I do stuff for the community, anti-radicalisation, but you still don't condemn Hamas. So
You don't condemn a terrorist organisation. It sounds like the BBC, doesn't it? That brutally murdered and put parts of babies into microwaves. That is a fact. And I will long say this, Samara, I've said it forever. I find any racism abhorrent, but I will forever fight for my Jewish friends because we live in a country which seemingly thinks that anti-Semitism isn't on the same path. Let's talk politically about that, and what a great expose. There were in the last general election 5 MPs like Shahid Butt who got elected simply by talking about Gaza.
Wow.
They didn't talk about any local situations at all. And in fact, there are several high-ranking Labour people, I don't know if you know this, who run the risk of losing their seats. Angela Rayner, actually Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, only had a 600. There was that great fight that Jess Phillips had in Birmingham Ladywood as well. The Muslim vote is so prevalent and has been so important to Labour, and many people will say that so much of Labour's policy, for example, let's not have a national inquiry yet on the fact that young white girls were raped, because, you know, that might upset people. I mean, if that, you know, people will insult, let's say Farage for a moment, and they'll say it's far right and it's not inclusive and all those sorts of things. This country will split because that sort of behaviour is very, very frightening. He has no desire to do anything about Birmingham. That's just an ideology based around religion, in my humble opinion.
Totally. I mean, he's part of Ahmed Yaqub's independent Gaza MP kind of conglomerate, and I spoke to Ahmed also. By the way, they're all very charismatic, nice guys behind the scenes and everything. You know, they're quite weirdly likable, but then you do start to get into the actual issues and you start to think, okay, this is quite very anti-British. And basically, Ahmed Yaqub said he's running over 60 candidates in the upcoming elections, and Starmer is the only one to blame. It is actually shameful how his lack of backbone has actually equated in this infiltration, because this is the new left. Just as we're seeing a little bit of a change on the right, we're also seeing a change on the left in this country, and it's going to be very dangerous. I think there will be in the next big election a coalition of far left and then Conservatives.
What, this lot will go with the Greens, would they?
What they might do. They were part of
the whole rag battle of nut jobs.
They might do with the Mothin Allies of the group. We don't know, but at the moment they're very much doubling down on being independent. But this guy, I mean, he said that IDF are baby killers in the past. I don't think he's that reformed or as reformed as he sort of says to be. And there's a longer form video on YouTube which you can see where he talks about wanting to kick people in the teeth to defend himself, which is a current position that he has.
Not very often in my broadcasting career am I open mouthed. Listen, on YouTube, more detail. Shahid Butt, I just want to make this point. He wants to run as a local councillor in Birmingham. One problem, he was previously convicted as a terrorist. But apparently he's changed. He spends a lot of time with the West Midlands Police. He's only really interested in Gaza, not anything to do with your bins in Birmingham. Beyond me. Literally beyond me. And for the people who, as I said, will say, oh, it's a bit far right to say that, is this a sign of things to come? Jesus, God.
It's a 2/3 Pakistani community out there, which I've got no issue with. But,
None of us
you know,
have.
he stands up for their interests, and a lot of the interview did revolve around my community, Islam, this and that, which... Again, I get, but I do think that councillors should be standing up for everyone within the community.
Of course.
So there is a big issue where we're just having very, very divided and siloed off people who are just sticking up for a very small section of their constituency.
Did he
and that's
win
a
you
big
over
issue.
with his argument?
He didn't win me over, no. They did offer to take me out for dinner after, which, to be honest, I am, you know, I love a bit of food, but I didn't go. I had other stuff to do that weekend. But, you know, Ahmed Yaqub, he's an interesting guy as well. He's the one heading this whole movement up. I just almost saw it from a journalistic perspective as a very interesting shift in what the future of Britain could look like. Candidates who are run on the Islamic faith, and their faith in Allah over potentially Britain's interests. He did seem, you know, like he wanted to be a community leader. I'll give him that. He seemed like he had some leadership qualities. But I don't believe that if it's ever crossed your mind to bomb a British embassy, that you should then be standing up for Britain or representing them in any way. I just don't think you can come back from that reputationally.
Couldn't agree more. And for many, 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 many people, it is a signal and a sign of what is going to happen. Samara Gill, great work. Before you go, great work yesterday. You went to Nigel Farage's press conference about pubs, where Nigel, page 10 of the Sun today says that he's going to save the British pub. 118,000 pubs and hospitality units have closed in the 18 months of this government, this new NI workers' right. They've decimated it. Nigel yesterday saying, I'm going to save the pub industry. And I'm going to do that, OK, by cutting the shameless welfare bill where the feckless sit on their backsides and do nothing, not the mentally ill and disabled, before you all get on your moral high horses. And you asked a question, brilliant. She got, why did you talk about Clarkson, I asked earlier? Because he owns a pub, you idiot, Carl. Have a watch.
Samara Gill from talkTV.
Jeremy Clarkson, a pub owner, he wrote a very scathing piece in The Sun this weekend saying that reform sounds great until you ask what they actually do beyond stopping the boats. He also said that voters don't know what they're signing up for. So can you name one policy on health, education or transport that would be measurably better after your first year in power, and tell us how voters would notice the difference?
Hello, Jeremy. Here we are. I'll put a copy in the post to you. I've not been to your pub yet. I trust I'm not banned, along with all the Labour MPs. There you are. There you are. And actually, what he's saying is wrong. Wrong. We've been unveiling new names, new faces. We've been unveiling policies for the last 6 or 8 months, actually in considerable quantity. So I can tell you, Jeremy, there's a constructive plan for pubs that also cuts the welfare bill. I'm sure he will approve thoroughly of that. And you can tell him we're working very, very hard on a proper agricultural policy as well. So I think perhaps he'd be reassured. Just spend less time with David Cameron would be my advice.
And just to update you, we texted Jeremy Clarkson this morning. We used to share lemon drizzle cake at ITV, saying, would you like to come? And he went, nah, and I haven't seen Cameron since Friday. So that's Jeremy Clarkson for you.
Yeah, so Farage is on the money there. He is spending quite a bit of time with Cameron. No, I'm joking. Look, it's interesting. I think Clarkson put some really good things forward in his piece in The Sun.
Yeah.
But Farage seems to be sort of listening and putting together some policies. I think the pub thing will save the pubs, and at least there's a bit of publicity on there. But I was thinking that there was going to be a defection, and there wasn't. Yeah, Mandelson didn't jump out from behind a curtain as a Labour defection. So yeah.
Great work, Samara Gill Shahid. But watch that online, by the way, the full interview. The ex-terrorist who wants to be a councillor in Birmingham. On a pro-Gaza ticket. We've got breaking news. A do not travel alert has been issued for Southern Thames Gatwick Express as National Rail said trains across the affected network may be cancelled or delayed up to 60 minutes. There you have it. It's raining, delayed. It's windy, delayed. There's leaves on the line, delayed. It's Tuesday, delayed. I love this country, don't you? Not an awful lot. Next, we said to you, thank you, Samara. Stay, go, do whatever, but please enjoy. We said to you this week that we will be looking at the Gorton and Denton by by-election in Manchester, talking to as many of the candidates as we possibly could. Yesterday, Matt Goodwin, the Reform candidate, was our guest this morning. We're going to speak to this is a fantastic booking next. Sir John Curtis, polling expert and Professor of Politics at the University of Strathclyde. John Curtis is next on Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 8:45. We're live across the UK. Talk Breakfast, JK here until 10. Jamie is depressed. Good morning, Jamie.
Morning, Jeremy. It's Jamie here from Hamilton. You know what? It's just depressing, this country, and all the migrants. How we British citizens are coming second. There's all this going on with Mandelson. You know, it'd just be nice one day, wouldn't it, to actually get some good news and a bit of cheer. But surely now, mate, this is Keir Starmer done and dusted. It's got to be. Hopefully he's gone within 6 months. Cheers. Great show as always.
Thanks, mate. I don't personally think Starmer will last too much longer, no, for all the reasons that we know. You're waking up to that news that, well, Mandelson is facing a police criminal investigation into allegedly leaking financial secrets whilst a cabinet minister to Epstein, the convicted paedophile. He's in complete disgrace, resigned from the Lords, the Labour Party, Labour turning on him. The big question, and Starmer will be at Prime Minister's questions, how much did he know when making him the ambassador? He'll say nothing. I would say he knew an awful lot, and I believe that Mandelson must know where the bodies are stored. It's going to be one hell of a Prime Minister's question time today. Now, let's take it to Gorton and Denton, the latest by-election, February the 26th. Just want to name all the candidates. Yesterday we interviewed Matt Goodwin from the Reform Party. Actually, to tell you that tomorrow Charlotte Cadden, the Conservative Party candidate, will be our guest at this time. The candidates, Nick Buckley, Advance UK, Charlotte Cadden, as I said, the Tory party. Tomorrow she'll be a guest. Dan Clark from the Libertarian Party. Matt Goodwin, Reform. Sebastian Moore from the Social Democratic Party. Joseph Omiche from Rejoin the EU. Jackie Piercy, the Liberal Democrats. Hannah Spencer, the Green Party. Angelica Stogia at Labour Party. Hugo Wills, the Communist League. And Seroinkalot, the Monster Raving Loony Party. It's a really interesting by-election. It is going to be, it seems, a toss-up between... Well, it's going to be a real judgment of Keir Starmer. There's only one man to speak to. Delighted to have him on. Sir John Curtis, polling legend. Good morning, sir. Welcome to Breakfast.
Good morning to you, Jeremy.
We read an awful lot about Gorton and Denton. The Reform Party talk about it as a referendum on Starmer. The Green Party talk in a far more left way than Labour. Labour have had the seat since about 1400 and look like being wiped off the map. What can you tell us to this point, Sir John?
Well, I think the thing to understand about the constituency is a constituency of two halves. Both the two halves which traditionally would have provided a basis for a strong Labour support. And indeed, this is a constituency to go back to 2019. It's reckoned that 2/3 of people voted Labour. One half, the Denton half, is essentially primarily white. It's relatively working class, therefore traditionally Labour territory, but Labour's connection with the white working class has become much weaker over the years in the wake of Brexit, and this is now a community for whom reform have a certain amount of appeal. The other half, the Gorton half, is ethnically diverse. It has a very substantial Muslim population. It also has a fair number of younger people. Now that historically, again, would have been demographics that would have been Labour's to advantage. But of course, Labour lost ground very heavily amongst Muslim voters in the 2024 election in the wake of Keir Starmer's and Labour's stance on Gaza, but certainly at least in the early phases of the war between Israel and Hamas. There isn't any sign so far of Labour managing to recover that. Crucially, probably crucially, neither Jeremy Corbyn's Your Party or the Workers' Party led by George Galloway are standing in this by-election. That potentially opens the way for the Greens, who were in the general election, were having some success at picking up votes from Muslim voters who are unhappy with Labour. It potentially clears the way for the Greens to try and bring together a fair section of the Muslim vote in the constituency. It's around 1 in 4 of the people who live there, together with a Labour voter who is disaffected with the Labour Party more broadly, to perhaps be able to come through. But it's a big perhaps. Reform are certainly looking as though they're going to be significant contenders. Such limited polling evidence as we have points to that. And even so, we still can't discount Labour. Because in the end of the day, I suspect this might well be a by-election, which ends up being one with a relatively low share of the vote, with a relatively small majority. And it may just be at the end of the day, the Labour Party can come and sneak through ahead of both Reform and the Greens. But those certainly now seem to be the three significant contenders in the constituency.
Really interesting analysis. You said limited polling evidence. However limited that is, where are we at in terms of what you know at this moment, Sir John?
Well, there have been a couple of exercises conducted just before Christmas of the so-called multi-level regression and post-stratification, which sounds complicated, but essentially is do a big poll and then take the data and model it to try to estimate what would happen in a constituency if there were a general election now. And so the data for Gorton and Dent are available. Both the two exercises that were conducted before Christmas put Reform ahead, somewhere at around 33% of the vote. But they then disagreed as to whether or not they were ahead of the Greens or whether they were ahead of Labour. There was more recently a poll, quote unquote, conducted of just 147 people. And I think in truth, one has to say, although this again suggested that those three parties were in the head, that's just too small a sample for us to place any great weight on it. Labour will certainly be hoping and arguing to voters, look, whatever your discontent with us, we know you like Nigel Farage even less, and therefore are going to try to persuade people not to vote for the Greens because there's a risk of being a wasted vote. And frankly, the Greens are going to try to turn the tables on Labour on that argument. So probably this early phase of the by-election is primarily a battle between Labour and the Greens to try to establish themselves as the principal challengers to Reform, and then to try to consolidate the anti-Reform vote. And given that Reform probably will struggle to get much more than around a third or so of the vote, the question is whether or not that will be enough if indeed voters decide that it's clear that either Labour or the Greens are best able to defeat them.
Interesting, your analogy, and for us, obviously, as much balance as possible. Tomorrow we've got Charlotte Cadden, the Conservative candidate. Yeah. No mention of the Conservatives in what you've said. And obviously, nationally, Kemi Badenoch has been making waves. Certainly, there seem to be a couple of national polls that said that her performance was better. But are they... I know it's a northern town. Are they a non-entity in your mind in this election, Sir John?
Well, look, Jeremy, the Conservatives came 5th in this constituency at the last election. The Liberal Democrats came 6th. The Liberal Democrats are doing little more than flatlining the national polls. And the Conservatives, yes, you're right, there have been some signs of modest recovery, though I think there's also signs that may now have stalled So honestly, therefore, as the truth, it doesn't seem realistic that either the Conservatives or the Democrats are going to be significant players in this constituency. One of the problems, however, that Reform do face, we do have Mr. Nick Buckley standing for Advance UK. That, of course, is Ben Habib's party, who have fallen out with Reform, and he had stood for the Mayor of Manchester in the past and done quite well. He used to be a member of Reform, so also by the Social Democratic Party. Now, maybe neither of those two candidates will do particularly well, but they will be trying to gain much the same kind of vote as Reform do. So again, you can see how the fact that the Workers' Party of George Galloway and the Your Party are not standing is potentially helping the Greens, but the fact that Nick Buckley is standing and the Social Democratic Party could make life more difficult for Reform.
So what we're looking at in the early stages of the campaign, and the election, peeps, is the 26th, is a sort of a situation where the Greens and Labour are vying to be the primary thing to take on Reform. Reform are trying to bat off the impression that Advance UK or other Social Democratic Party, Sebastian Moore, could take votes. You believe in the end, from what you've got, and everything's a lottery, I guess, that it will be potentially between Nigel Farage's party and either the Greens with disaffected Labour or Labour with disaffected Greens. That's how you see it at this point.
Very good ceremony, Jeremy. I think you should go and come and do my job.
No, I'm useless. I've decided, actually, because when I grew up, it was all about the swingometer. It's actually fascinating. It is a fascinating job.
It's just worth noting that we're saying here that it's possible, at least we don't know, it's possible at least that this will be a by-election where the two principal contenders will be the Greens and Reform, neither of whom were a significant part of our politics until relatively recently. I mean, more broadly here, this could well be a by-election that continues to underline the way in which our politics in Britain seems to be fragmenting, and that the traditional dominance of Conservatism and Labour on our politics, and we are frankly asking the question whether the time is up on the pattern of party politics that we've been used to for most of the post-war period.
Did you ever, just very quickly, my friend, did you ever think that the uniparty thing in your lifetime would be destroyed? Because I didn't, and I can genuinely see that happening.
No, I mean, I think that, we did see a very substantial challenge to the traditional system from the Liberal SDP alliance when it was first formed in the 1980s, and it was ahead in the opinion polls for a while. But actually, Reform have now been ahead in the polls for longer than that formation ever were. So, of course, in Scotland, the traditional party system has been fragmented. The Scottish National Party are the dominant party there. So that was a clear indication there is nothing inevitable about the continuation of the Conservative Labour duopoly. But of course, what we've got at the moment, we've got this very peculiar circumstance of very substantial policy challenges, the struggle of getting the economy turned around, the difficulties with the health service, the fact that the immigration is proving difficult to control. The Conservatives' reputation was tarnished, trashed by their record in government between 2019 and 2024. And now we've got a Labour administration, which probably even their friends would admit are to some degree challenging, finding it difficult to meet these policy challenges. With that combination, you can see how the ground was potentially open for other parties to make an incursion. And to that extent, at least, the ground has been more propitious for newer parties than probably it has been for 60 years or so.
Listen, absolutely fantastic to have you on. The voice of the polls, Sir John Curtis on Talk Breakfast. We'll speak to you very, very soon. All the info you need to know about Denton and Gorton by-election. Sport, very quickly, push the button.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From The Sun.
Gary, a quick one this morning. Gary Stonehouse, North Eastern Yorkshire football reporter. Tonight, Man City, Newcastle Carabao Cup semi-final. Newcastle trying to claw it back, 2-0 down. Said to Alan Brazil at 5-6 this morning, first goal's important. Can the Geordie faithful see a victory tonight?
It looks like mission impossible, really, doesn't it? But Man City's second half collapse at Tottenham should give them hope. Newcastle, they haven't been firing on all cylinders recently, and I think it told a sorry story for Eddie Howe's squad when he had three strikers on the bench against Liverpool and Anthony Gordon playing the false nine. To be fair, it worked for half an hour, but then they crumbled. But as you say, an early goal is going to be vital tonight. That late strike by Turkey in the first leg, it's really, really knocked the stuff in out of them, left them up against it. But if they can get another goal early doors tonight, it'll be game on.
It'll be Man City and Newcastle playing Arsenal at Wembley. They defeated Chelsea at 1-0 last night to go through 4-2 on aggregate. Finally, Arsenal look like they might win a trophy or two, Gary.
Yeah, and it's about time, the fans will say, won't they? I mean, the League Cup is not the one that they were targeting at the beginning
Silverware,
of the season.
my friend. Silverware.
Exactly.
Silverware. You
I was
know?
about to say, I used to love Jose Mourinho's mantra, just get that first trophy on board, everything else will follow. It's been, I think, 6 years now since they lifted the FA Cup.
Yeah.
That could give them a real boost going into running to finally end that title drought as well.
We've got 20 seconds. A score prediction, Man City, Newcastle tonight. Go.
I'm going to go 1-0. Newcastle to take the lead, Man City to get a late equaliser. 1-1. City to go.
I'm going to have Newcastle to go through and play Arsenal in the final of the Carabao Cup. Gary Stonehouse, thank you very much indeed. Talk Breakfast. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Jeremy. It's Sarah from Croydon. Lucy Connolly was interviewed with Kevin the other night or last week, and he asked her would she be standing for office, i.e. an MP, and she said she's unsure that she'll actually be allowed because of her conviction. So I want to ask the question, how is it possible that this man who's had terror charges from Yemen, how is he allowed to stand, but Lucy Connolly, who was convicted for hurty words, is not allowed to stand?
There is definitely some credence to be given to the idea of guilt by association, and mere association or mere presence doesn't indicate guilt or doesn't indicate that you actually participated in these sordid and disgusting crimes. But when you see the repetitiousness, when you see the long-term interactions where it would be very difficult for anybody to be friends with Jeffrey Epstein without knowing the reputation, without seeing the assorted detritus in his path that he's left.
This journey of me following the migrants went from sort of 10 in the morning, all around the clock, to late at night, to the point where, on buses, on trains, through streets, at every key point, French military police and the French police, they were there. They were on the bus, taking down notes, taking pictures, but not doing anything to deter the migrants or stop them, just being there. I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. His WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy?
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 9:05, and I have to go ahead of Julia Hartley-Brewer. Do not forget, 12 o'clock today, Prime Minister's Question Time, where Keir Skewer, do you see what I did there? Will be Starmered. I changed it round. All about Mandelson. You're waking up to those two main news stories. Honestly, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has been booted out of Royal Lodge overnight on Monday, heading to Norfolk in exile. Many are saying that's not enough. He's got to leave the country. More allegations against him overnight. Sex trafficking, threesomes. It's disgusting. It's awful. He is under pressure to speak to Congress. J.D. Vance, the American Vice President, overnight putting pressure on Andrew at home. The Prince of Darkness's time is well and truly up. Mandelson resigning from the Labour Party and the House of Lords last night. The murkiness continues. The Met have announced a criminal investigation against the former cabinet minister for leaking financial secrets of the government of Gordon Brown to a convicted paedophile. He, in my humble opinion, don't care what anybody in this building says, is going to jail, in or not in his underpants. I genuinely think he is going to jail. Your thoughts on that? 0344 499 1000 for your voice notes. Text to 87222. There's breaking news in the last 60 minutes as well. Sir Keir Starmer, who is under massive pressure, thank God, to explain why in the name of God he gave Mandelson the job when the security services said no, is set to publish key documents relating to the appointment of Mandelson later today. The government says they'll do that. My comment would be, which ones will be released and why didn't you read them before you gave him the job, you idiot? Also breaking news, if you're travelling in and around the southern area, a do not travel alert has been issued for Southern Thameslink and Gatwick Express. National Rail said that trains across the affected network may be cancelled, severely delayed. Major disruptions until 1 o'clock. So if you're travelling in the south, take care, be careful, make sure you know what you're up to. The piece of information, well, the story that Samara Gill told us about the convicted terrorist, Shahid Butt, who's standing to be a local councillor in Birmingham. Extraordinary reaction. You can go online and see the whole interview. I tried to control myself. Yeah, it's 30 years ago I tried to bomb somebody. Hamas is not a terrorist state. Brilliant. Jez, says Rachel, a convicted terrorist standing for election. Why do I find myself saying this? Only in the United Kingdom. Couldn't agree more. John's in Poole. Morning, Johnny. Hi, Jez. Samara, that piece of rubbish standing for Birmingham City Council needs to be deported immediately. What a joke this country has become. Roger. The disgusting apologist. No, wrong one. If this ex-terrorist gets elected, can't he be disqualified under the Recall of MPs Act 2015? You've got to understand, many MPs, 5 in the last election, were elected simply by saying, we're going to talk about Gaza. I didn't see him, the man on screen right now, Shahid Butt, talking about the rubbish in Birmingham. Not interested in any of that. He's going to tap into a certain vote. He said, and I quote, October the 7th was, you know, a reasonable response. Can't remember his exact words. A reaction is what he said to what had happened to our community. Jeremy, that disgusting apologist, Shahid Butt, shouldn't be anywhere near our country, let alone our democracy. We're on the cusp of something very disturbing, says Neil Say. John, how is this guy even in my country? I give up. Honestly, it's just the start of more horror candidates to try and change our politics for forever. 8 minutes past 9. We're delighted to be joined now, very important lady, senior political commentator at The Telegraph, Annabel Denham. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Is that a have we had a promotion here? Senior political commentator? Is that just a promotion, isn't it?
A change in job title.
Well, it sounds.
I want to be put it.
It sounds very, very, very good. I'm actually going to take issue with your article today. Starmer's successors will prove just as clueless as him. Now, I accept that the makeup of the front bench is at best pretty appalling. But I do seriously, on the back of this Mandelson stuff, question an awful lot about this man's integrity. And I think I'm actually past joking about it. If he knew an nth of anything about Mandelson, be it through his security services or people in America who apparently had concerns, and he did nothing about it, I think he's complicit in this, Annabelle. But further than that, if he uses the old adage of, I didn't know, he has to go down. I mean, we all experienced Boris Johnson in the end. This man is a duplicitous, incompetent git. I can't have it. And I add to the mix very quickly, if he is part of a bigger issue, how much has Mandelson got on so many members of the Labour Party?
Well, OK, Jeremy, there's a lot to unpack there. First, the point that I was making in my article really is that Starmer's fundamental problem was that he came into government with a plan. He thought that the hard part, like Boris Johnson before him, was winning the election. And then once he entered number 10, he had absolutely no idea what he was doing, which is why he's been buffeted by events and lurched from one crisis to another. It's also the reason why he's failed to set out any kind of vision and thus struggled to manage his enormous parliamentary party in the way that Tony Blair was able to. And my sense is that none of the likely successors will be any more successful in this regard. I don't get any feeling that Angela Rayner is there setting out in great detail and testing to destruction a set of policies that she would like to implement were she to become our Prime Minister. And I think the same applies to Andy Burnham, who, let's not forget, has been on quite the political journey since he was a Blairite cabinet minister.
I've got to say very quickly, I completely agree with you, and I wasn't getting it in the wrong context. I completely agree. No vision, no plan, buffeted left and right. I'm not sticking up for anybody, but I think Starmer is pretty mired in this stuff. I really do.
Well, I mean, goodness knows what's happening with the crisis comms at number 10 at the moment. They must be in a state of total panic. Look, in true Starmer form, he was too late to really grasp how serious this crisis was until after it had detonated. So at the start of the week, he was dragging his feet and he wanted to go through due process and didn't even want to discuss stripping Mandelson of his peerage until Tuesday afternoon. I mean, that was clearly too late. Why they didn't act with more alacrity is baffling. And once again, the Prime Minister looks as though he's been bounced into taking tough action rather than being on the front foot. And they will now, Downing Street, be absolutely desperate to distance Keir Starmer from this scandal in any way that they possibly can. I wonder if there's actually a third way to the two options that you set out, which is that Starmer will say that it may have passed his desk, but he didn't see it. Because if the security services weren't disclosing these documents, then what exactly were they doing? But no, the screws are only going to tighten on the Prime Minister over what he knew and when, and bring your popcorn to PM's Q's today, because I expect Kemi Badenoch to give a pretty good showing and land quite a few blows.
I agree with you, but if he dares to say it passed my desk, the obvious question back to him is, but hold on a second, the security services told you in no uncertain terms that allowing the Chinese super embassy was a dangerous and wrong decision. They pointed that out. He ignored that advice, disappeared off to China for a trade deal because his policies have destroyed the economy, certainly for small businesses, which leads many to believe, right, that he might well have ignored this advice. But I bring it back to, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist in any way, Annabelle, you know that, but it does just ask, how has a man in Mandelson disgracefully resigned on at least 3 occasions and be brought back again and again, overnight, by the way, you'll know this, people might not tuning in, Gordon Brown, who I'd never agree with, to be honest, politically, but I do believe there was some integrity there, has contacted the police himself and said, this is absolutely appalling. This was my government. I do not want you to allow number 10 to cover it up. That's a Labour grandee saying this. I wonder, genuinely wonder, how much Mandelson has got. And if he does go down, here's the big question from Rob in Newcastle. Is he going to squeal, do you think?
Well, on Gordon Brown, obviously he has been dragged into this because in the late 2000s he gave Mandy the life peerage, which enabled him to become our business secretary, to re-enter government. So I can sort of understand why Gordon Brown made that decision. One thing I would just say about Peter Mandelson is that actually he's made a lot of the right calls over the years. You talked about China. He has been a China skeptic. He's been extremely cautious about the increasing power of Beijing and has warned successive Labour governments, or rather the Labour Party, his colleagues, to be, to not be reckless in that regard. And he's been more on the let's decouple and de-risk side of the fence. And the same applies to the EU. He's warned about the EU only having us back as supplicants and talked about how we'd have to pay a huge price.
But Annabelle, I'm just
going to say that he has made some of the big calls.
I don't think that has any. I don't think that anybody is going to give and I'm being completely straight with mates, a toss about that anymore. This man has abused his position, abused his contacts. If this is true, the most disgusting thing you can do in public office, all while parading his friendship with a convicted paedophile, not a mention of victims. And yesterday, I don't know if you will have seen this, you see everything more than I do, but to come out on television and go, I didn't really know the extent of the sexual activity of Epstein because I'm a gay man, I thought was probably the lowest of the low. And I won't give you an analogy, but there's a certain person who was in trouble some months ago from, let's just say, the public eye, who played the same card. I don't think that's good enough, right? I don't think it's good enough. And he might well have been right on certain issues, but I think he is, to many people who've contacted the show this morning, Annabelle, they'd say he is symptomatic of the entitled, arrogant, privileged class who don't give a toss about the very people they're supposed to represent. And I think that's the real issue for Labour and Mandelson right now.
No, I agree, and I think public trust in politics and politicians is at an all-time low. And the last thing we need is for somebody who was a Labour grandee to be eroding it even further. And let's not forget that all of this is contested, but I nevertheless support the fact that there is going to be a police investigation into whether there was misconduct in public office, and that's extremely important that we get to the bottom of this. Keir Starmer and I actually agree on that, and him saying that passing on state secrets would be unacceptable. Of course it is. It absolutely stinks. And the fact that it was Jeffrey Epstein who at this point had been convicted of paedophilia just makes it all the more grubby and sordid. And no wonder the public are outraged. And I tell you, it isn't just the public, Jeremy, it's also the Parliamentary Labour Party. Yeah. Keir Starmer is in seriously hot water here. He needs to be seen, I think, publicly to be burying Peter Mandelson if he's to have any hope of surviving it. But even if he does, he's just living to see another day. Gorton and Denton by-election that Labour could well lose to the Green Party.
Yeah.
No, the party that wants to liberalise drugs, but whose leader is apparently a teetotaler. And then you've got the forthcoming bloodbath of the May election. So no, things are not looking good for Keir Starmer, and they're not looking good for Morgan McSweeney, his Chief of Staff either, who railroaded through the appointment of Peter Mandelson. They have a long-standing...
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. McSweeney is definitely... I mean, we talked about this the other week. He was seen going through the back door to number 10, wasn't he, Mandelson, when the last cabinet reshuffle was on, because apparently he's still got the ear of McSweeney. So much on the front page of the Telegraph, and your article as well, which is utterly brilliant. I just wanted to... I wanted to ask you a question to spread the Epstein thing out to our royal family. Andrew, I mean, sordid as hell, removed from Royal Lodge overnight on Monday, sent packing to Norfolk, but still privileged. I think the clamour for him to either be banished or leave this country, or maybe even jail, will gather. There's allegations overnight of further sex trafficking and payments to strippers. I'm going to ask you a question that was put to me earlier, and I'm a fervent royalist. I said I was delighted that our late Queen wasn't around to experience this, and somebody very quickly texted me and went, What did she think the 12 million quid was for then? What's your response to that?
Well, you know, certainly it has been a stain on the king's monarchy reign in a way that perhaps it wasn't his late mother's. And, you know, I feel quite a depth of sympathy for him in that regard. And I suspect that he took the very drastic, near unprecedented action that he did last year in stripping Andrew of all of his baubles and booting him out of Windsor in order to preserve his son William's reign so that it wouldn't be tainted in the same way. You know, the 12 million, we don't know, do we? Ultimately, that settlement was made and the case went away, but only temporarily. You know, I just wonder for Andrew how much longer this is going to drag on and on.
I don't think it's going to go away.
You and I, no, I don't think it's going to go away. Obviously, you've had this trove that was released on Friday that journalists are picking their way through. And you and I may not agree with this again, but I find it slightly ghoulish, the kind of pitchfork crowd piling onto Prince Andrew, or artist formerly known as Prince Andrew, in the way that they have. You know, he hasn't been charged, let alone convicted, of any crime in UK law. And I think
not yet. I tell you what, I'd say,
Jeremy, but it's innocent until proven guilty.
No, I get that.
I can see why people find him odious.
People will think that you and I are arguing. We're not. We're debating. I would say this, and I genuinely mean this, and I've been in the eye of the media storm, and that's what comes when you're in the public eye. If you have had a life of privilege and entitlement, and you put that into where I think we are as a country, I go back to this silent majority have woken up and are no longer prepared to trust bent politicians or be treated as second-class citizens to migrants. And I think this is why it's a very important moment for the British royal family, Annabelle. I think people in their millions are now going, hold on a minute, mate. You did all of that under the cover of darkness and you got away with it for years. What about the victims? Because nothing, apart from out of Prince Edward's mouth, has come from... And I'm a royalist, Annabelle, like you wouldn't believe. The old man, everybody knows this, worked for the royal family for 41 years. But not a mention, apart from Prince Edward the other day, about the victims of the paedophile that was Jeffrey Epstein. And of course, Andrew isn't guilty until proven that way. But his sordid, entitled lifestyle, I think, has finally come back to bite him on the arse, and I don't think he can moan about that. But I think the royal family, unfortunately, I agree with Andrew Loney, and I didn't think I would. I think they're going to have to tell us the truth about how much they knew and when they knew it.
Well, look, I completely agree with you about the victims. They're at the heart of this, and one can only imagine how frustrated they must feel that more heads haven't rolled, that the only person who is behind bars as a consequence of this scandal is Ghislaine Maxwell. I slightly dispute some of the things that you've said about Andrew's upbringing in a way, because I think he had an extremely dysfunctional childhood. You know, it was far from wholesome, even though he may have been the Queen's favourite. He was born not to reign, but ultimately to be the perennial understudy. And when William was born, you know, he was sort of kicked to one side. And we celebrated him for such a long time. We lifted him up and we joked about how he was Randy Andy. And then a few decades later, our society, we had Me Too and everything fundamentally changed. And now we're looking back on his behaviour then through a different lens. And don't get me wrong, you know, the idea that he was 50 and sleeping with somebody in their mid-20s, I find pretty revolting. But he hasn't actually done anything illegal. And I just think a lot of people are making judgments based on second-hand, third-hand opinions of Andrew.
I think that's right, but I tell you what I also think. I don't think it's going to get any easier, and I think there must be a shed load more. And I guess I'm talking from the point of view of the monarchy in its entirety. You know, I mean, I said something yesterday that Kinsey Schofield rightly picked me up on. I said I felt sorry for those two young princesses dragged to see a paedophile by their mother. Turns out they were 18 and 20. Well, my kids at 18 and 20 would know what a paedophile is and wouldn't have wanted to come and visit them. So, you know, maybe they are. I just think there's a whole series of things that the royal family are going to have to answer, a whole series of things that the Labour Party are going to have to answer. And just to finish, I don't know your stance personally on this, but marvel's the wrong word. It makes me shudder when I think of the tentacles in the fingers that Epstein had in so many different pies. It's beyond me. Prime ministers, presidents, some of the biggest businessmen in the world. I mean, this guy, over the weekend there was this sort of conspiracy theory that he was a front man for the KGB or for Mossad because that would have financed his lifestyle. But his power over these people was extraordinary, Annabelle, wasn't it?
Yes, I mean, it was immense. And I don't think we're entirely clear where exactly his money came from and how he made it. And why is it that he had this hold over these extraordinarily important senior figures across sort of business and royals and politics and so on, which is it's the reason why, you know, many millions of column inches have been devoted to this man, why books have been written about him. There was a Netflix TV show. And I think now, you know, again, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist here, but are there remaining questions to be asked about the nature of his death as well?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Annabelle Denham, really good to have you on. Senior, just repeat the new title.
Senior political commentator
at the Daily Telegraph. Thank you very much indeed. Great to have you on. 9:25 live across the UK. Listen, so many people with an opinion. JK says, Margaret in Birmingham, pin back your logos, you lot. Fasten your seatbelts, folks. We're in for a rip-roaring PMQ, but Starmer will stand there and cover up his incompetence and blame the party opposite. I hope he shows Kemi more respect. Margaret from Birmingham. Get Nigel Evans on tomorrow. I love him. Hello to Rob in Lancashire. Morning, Jez. PMQs will go the same way it always does. Starmer won't answer, but simply have some parrot with some prepared response to his questions. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Mark's in Selby. If Starmer does not go right now, then he is not fit to remain in office. How much proof do we need? Keir is our Biden. Our eyes and ears do not deceive us. Vote reform. Philip from Northern Ireland. So having a convicted terrorist in Birmingham is utter madness, is it? Yeah, it is, absolutely. But I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to. I don't care. Morning, Jez, says Gaz Connor. This is for you, Rob. The great Barry Manilow once sung, "Oh, Mandy, well, you came and you gave without taking." That didn't age well, did it, Gaz in Pontefract? No, it didn't. Lee, good morning.
Good morning, Jezza. It's Lee from Rugby. Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. Get the popcorn out. These next few weeks are going to be really interesting. I'll tell you something, Mandelson, if he goes down, he's taking others down with him. It's amazing to see how the mighty fall. Oh, my life, it's going to be so interesting to see. I don't know. Anyway, have a great day, mate.
But of course, once again, this explodes all of his notions that he said to Emily Maitlis about being an honourable gentleman and trying to break things off with Epstein. We can see quite clearly he was lying through his teeth. He has maintained that relationship. And also now, of course, as wasn't the case before, his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, absolutely in the mire as well, with these fawning emails saying she wants to marry Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, marry, at one point, marry me. I mean, and this was after his conviction.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:28. This is Talk Breakfast, the home of Alarm Clock Britain. It's the home of many people who are gobsmacked about the murky goings-on with Epstein, the tentacles at Mandelson facing a criminal investigation. I'm telling you, he's off to jail. The other one, Prince Andrew, apparently he's not off to jail. He needs to be banished. We're going to have to watch, we're going to have to watch Starmer skewered at lunchtime. 12 o'clock, PMQs, all with the wonderful Julia Hartley-Brewer here. Amanda says, Andrew, little did we know how far he would fall when Andrew came home as a hero from the Falkland War. Andy is no longer true. No, Delta. Starmer is happy today because all focus is on Mandelson. Meanwhile, Starmer's legal attacks on the British military and veterans continues to go largely unchallenged. Delta, right, it will never go unchallenged what he's doing to the veterans, OK? Never, ever, because genuinely, hand on heart, that is an utter disgrace, and a disgrace in a long line of disgraceful things. Really sad breaking news, actually. John Virgo, fantastic snooker player, great funny man, has sadly just passed away. We'll tell you more about that as we get opinion. I just want to... yesterday, there was an announcement in the House of Lords, I think we've got the clip, from Lord Speaker McFall when he announced that Lord Mandelson was stepping down from his position. If we could just play that.
My Lords, given the public interest and for the convenience of the House, I've decided to inform the House that the Clerk of the Parliament has today received notification from Lord Mandelson of his intention to retire from the House, effective from 4th February.
I'm delighted to welcome now a couple of Lords. Lord George Faulks, former Labour peer and former Minister under Tony Blair. Lord Faulks, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Also a very good morning to Lord Clive Soley, Labour peer. I hope I've got that right, Lord Soley, have I?
You're right, yes.
I start with Lord Faulks. Peter Mandelson, I'm sure there are people who want to defend his appalling behaviour, but he's brought shame on so many people, it seems, and I guess you would agree that it's absolutely right that he stepped down from both the Labour Party and the House of Lords before he was thrown out of both.
I haven't heard anyone standing up to defend him. I heard West Streeting this morning saying we're all betrayed. And those of us in the Labour Party feel more betrayed than anyone at all.
Betrayed because you feel you've all been manipulated? Because the one question, and I'm being straight with you, my friend, is the one question on so many people's lips, certainly that have been on this show and contacting this show this morning, is how many people in the Labour Party must this vile human being have dirt on if he can come back 3 times, if he can be made a peer under Gordon Brown, if he can be sent to become an ambassador in America with a Prime Minister who patently didn't listen or have anything to do with the security briefings. This man, right, stands accused by the police of leaking financial secrets to a convicted paedophile whilst a government minister. I don't think there's been many horrors like that.
Well, I think Boris Johnson and his dalliance with Lebedev's father and giving Lebedev a peerage and going to Lebedev's retreats for hospitality was quite similar, but I'm making no excuse for Mandelson. It's not acceptable. He's betrayed everyone. People in the Labour Party feel betrayed more than anyone else. He was very clever. He's able, he's clever, and he used his ability and his cleverness to fool people. Also, I think it's emerging now that the Epstein may well have been a Russian plant. He may well have been finding compromat on British and Western politicians for the Russians. And that is a really very worrying situation. And it raises things about what's happening in the United States now in relation to President Trump. I think there is a lot of evidence that the Russians had been using Epstein and are now using Trump in relation.
I don't agree with that. I want to talk about Mandelson and your party. Can I bring in Lord Clive Soley? I don't want to get off on the wrong foot. You don't want to bash Mandelson whilst he's down. What is that?
I'm not saying that. No, what I've said very clearly, it's not you. I've known Peter Mandelson for a long time. He is a very able guy. He was very competent, commissioner in the European Union. But he had a fatal flaw. It was about the strength of his moral code. the internal moral code. And I knew that from a long time ago, but it wasn't because he was doing anything wrong in public. It wasn't like what had come out recently. The allegations at the moment are very serious, but they've got to be treated as allegations by the police and dealt with properly. That's fine. Where I think people need to be clear, because I talk a lot to schools about politics, and it's very, very important that people have confidence in our political system.
But they don't, my friend.
Like
I'm going to jump in.
Well, hang on a minute. When something like this happens, it undermines that. But the vast majority of politicians of all parties, and none, are honest, hardworking.
Well, let's bring it, because I'm delighted to have you. I'm delighted to have you both on. Although, can we try and do something about Lord Solly's connection, because it's not very good? Can I bring this back to Lord Fawkes? We can sit here and we can talk about Mandelson, OK? And you can talk about betraying the Labour Party, and I can sit here and I can say, come on, how much dirt has this man got? Let's talk about your Prime Minister, who I think is up to his neck. If this man, right, you know, an ex-human rights lawyer, blatantly, and here's an accusation I'd love your response to, my friend, blatantly ignores our security services when they advise him not to agree the building of a super agency for China, an embassy in London.
No, you're wrong on that. You're wrong on that. You're absolutely wrong on that. MI6 made it absolutely clear that it is much better to have one embassy for China instead of 7 all around the country, all around the city. The MI6 advice was quite clear on that, to go ahead with the one super embassy. I'm sorry.
So you're telling me that the security services said it was a good idea to build that?
Like many
I would refute that.
Like
do you trust a leader?
Like many people on the media, you're getting it wrong again.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm not getting wrong. Your self-styled leader, the human rights guru, then goes to China, a country with the worst human... I'm not getting this out. The worst human rights record in history, where slaves make stuff and cozies up for a deal because his financial policies have screwed the British economy, Lord Fawkes. You know that's true.
He's not our self-styled leader. He is the elected leader. He's the elected Prime Minister. Whether you like it or not, and obviously you don't like it, you're obviously a right-winger.
How can I like him? The man's an incompetent idiot.
And of course we have to deal with China. China is the second biggest economy in the world. We have to deal with it, just as... I mean, President Trump is off to China next month.
I'm not bothered about President Trump. The Labour Party... Let me tell you something, because you've told me I don't know my job. MI5 Director General Sir Ken McCallum and GCHQ Director Anne Keith-Butler, it's official, Lord Fawkes, warned the Home Secretary and the Foreign Secretary that national security risks would be linked to a new super embassy. Your response to that, my friend?
No, that's not true.
Yes, it is.
It isn't.
It is true, my friend. It is absolutely nailed on true.
No, you're not. I know for a fact that it's better to have one embassy, which is...
I'm telling you what the Director General of MI5 and the GCHQ Director, Anne Keith-Butler, told the Foreign Secretary. You can't deny that. That's a fact.
It's not a fact. It's not a fact.
MI5 said it cannot, quote me, eliminate every potential risk posed by the new site. They said that.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong. Like many people
Jeremy,
in the media, you're wrong.
Jeremy, can you listen for a moment?
Oh, you're back.
The reality is what they were saying, and quite rightly, is that any embassy that China has poses an element of risk, just as the Russian embassy does.
Yeah.
But, and it's an important but, you don't stop dealing with other countries because they're dictatorship. You have to deal with them. And actually, people criticise Keir Starmer, and you're doing it now, but one of the things he's done incredibly well on is foreign policy, because there is a danger of... No, hold on a minute, Jeremy. Listen to this, because an awful lot of people are saying it who know about the defence and foreign policy. There is a danger of war in Europe, right? And in those circumstances, you need to talk to other governments.
Agree with that.
If you don't like them. And that's very, very important. So in a way, if you trivialise this, you actually make the situation more dangerous.
I'm not trivialising anything. Let me put it to both of you this. I'm not trivialising anything. I was, hand on heart, gentlemen, more appalled at the end of the last Tory government than probably either of you two added together. I felt betrayed and I felt lied to. And I'm going to be honest. Let's take our political hats off. I wanted whatever was coming next to be an improvement. I knew that the Labour Party had known for 2 years that they were going to win, and I know that the Sue, what was the name again? Sue Gray, you know, first 100 days. I remember saying during the campaign that Starmer seemed to be offering so much to so many different people that I was worried when he got in that he would spend his entire time going round in circles. I don't have to tell you as Labour peers, I mean, some of the choices, some of the decisions, I can label it all. Pensioners, farmers, the net zero madness, the waspy women he lied to, the treatment of veterans, the Troubles Bill. I put this to you, and this isn't about me. The British public think he is the most incompetent Prime Minister in history. I don't know why you're shaking your head, Lord Fawkes. Look at the opinion polls.
Do you remember Liz Truss?
You do it the whole time. I'm not defending Liz Truss. Talk about Starmer, not Trump, not Truss. The man is on his backside. It's a fact.
You just said he's the most incompetent Prime Minister.
Well, he is.
In decades. What about Liz Truss? What about Boris Johnson? Look what happened to them.
But are you all right? Let me before you start. Are you going to win the argument with the British public by simply saying, "Look at Boris Johnson, look at Liz Truss"? This man is a disgrace in the job.
And look what happened in the House of Commons last night. The House of Commons voted to scrap the 2-child limit last night. We're doing all the things we promised, one after the other.
Well, hold on a second. Now we're going to have a massive argument. You told the farmers you'd look after them. Lie. You told the waspy women you'd look after them. Lie. You told the pensioners you'd look after them. Lie. Come on, Lord Fawkes, be honest with me. You've lied.
Be honest, Jeremy. Why did you get kicked off your previous?
Now that's the lowest I've ever heard, and about sums up why the Labour Party is on its arse.
No.
That's the truth. You have no political argument. You want to resort to that. I'll tell you what you can do, Lord Fawkes. You can get off my damn show and do one. Bye-bye. We'll carry on with the next bloke. Sorry, Lord Coates. Go on, let's talk to... I'm not talking to him, because I'll say the wrong thing. Lord Soley.
You actually need to talk to him, because actually...
I don't need to talk to somebody who will not accept the problems that Labour have created.
Well, it's not about accepting or not accepting.
Yes, it is.
There are different opinions in a democracy. You can have different opinions.
Of course.
Right? And you give the impression of someone who wants to shut anybody up who disagrees with you. And
did I or did I not give him fact from Sir Ken McCullum and Anne Keith Butler? Did I give him fact, yes or no?
Yeah, let me finish. Yes, you gave him facts, but you didn't give him the other facts, which I indicated, which is that any embassy of a dictatorship is likely to pose security problems. It doesn't have to be a big one, it can be a small one. There's been very small ones that have done an awful lot of damage.
Do you think Keir Starmer's done a good job?
Hold on a minute. You do have to deal with other countries.
No, I don't disagree with that. Do you believe that Keir Starmer's done a good job?
Yeah, as Foreign Secretary, I think he's done foreign policy. I think he's done incredibly well, and most people know that. And that's I know it doesn't win votes, but if you want to avoid war in Europe, then it is very important that Starmer continues to do what he's doing.
Do you think that resonates with people at home whose lives are difficult?
I know there are problems on the home front for him, and I understand that. He's got time to turn it round. You might not like it, but you've probably got another 3 years of this government, so you might not like that. But you can turn these things round.
Do you actually genuinely... Do me a favour, because you've accused me of listening. I am listening. Do me a favour. Do you honestly believe what just came out of your mouth? He's got time to turn it around. His entire cabinet and party is plotting against him. He's toast, mate.
Yes, you can still got time to turn it around. I've seen worse situations. Jeremy, I have seen worse situations in politics. Look at the mess.
Will you come back on my show the day he either resigns or is thrown out in less than 6 months? You will.
I have no problem with that.
All right, my friend.
But the issue, the reason why I go on about this, when I give talks to schools on politics, the interesting thing to me is that kids are actually better informed and more willing to stand back and listen to the arguments than they were before.
Social media, which you're trying to ban.
Well, it's not, media's got its role to play. A lot of it is very good, some of it's crap. But, a lot of politics is good, a lot of politics is crap. That's
That's the world. You know, you can't opt out of life. And I sometimes think you want to opt out of life because you have this doom and gloom of everything. You know, I just want to say
I think that politicians, if you can just a couple of quick questions, but I think you have to understand one thing. Do not take this personally at all. Our last guest. You sit in your privileged House of Lords on £385 a day. Hear me out, right? Saying that a man... No, please hear me out. That a man who patently might or might not be successful abroad, I think he's a puppet, that's my opinion, but other people will have a different opinion. Hear me out. You don't actually accept that the silent majority of hard-working people in this country, right, are struggling to even accept the way their lives look. And for a Prime Minister, hear me out, to not even acknowledge that is a sign of weakness. I need two things from you before you go. Peter Mandelson, your line is now better. I think he's going to jail, don't you?
I really don't know. We've got allegations at the moment, and with allegations, you've got to wait until the process is gone through. Otherwise, we make assumptions, and you assume somebody's committed terrible offences before the courts have heard the evidence.
If he has committed the offence of...
Well, it'd be much more serious, and then, yes, he would be in serious trouble. That's knowledge, it's obvious. The problem with Peter, and it is like a Shakespearean tragedy, he had many abilities and skills which were beneficial to this country.
Or to himself.
But then he had this fatal flaw about the moral code that he had internally, which wasn't strong enough to kick in and say, I'm not doing this.
So why didn't anybody in the Labour Party realise that when he was sacked for the fourth time?
Look, this is why I said to your guys who phoned me about doing this programme, is that the danger in these situations is that people throughout the country of all levels, of all jobs and all types, will find people with problems like that. The interesting thing is, why is it that people in big business, people in entertainment and people in politics are the ones where it hits the fan big time, like this? And the reason very often is that some people in that don't have the moral strength.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with you, but hear me say this. This. You can talk about a talented man, and you can say about his moral compass, I put in brackets, a obsession with money, but there isn't many people listening to this in the private sector with respect, OK, Clive, who on 4 occasions would have a fraudulent loan, would offer passports to dodgy businessmen, I don't know. It's to me, I'm afraid now, it's very telling, OK, that everybody in the Labour Party is running around in circles saying he's a terrible man. Wes Streeting said it this morning, and I agree. I just wonder how much dirt he's got on far too many people who gave him too many opportunities. That would be my question to you.
No, I understand that. Well, let me put it this way. When I say other people in other walks of life do this, the one of the ways, the example of how I can use this, if you remember with Jimmy Savile, right? When I first saw him on television with kids, the first thing I said to the person sitting with me was, I wouldn't trust that guy with my kids. Now, I was able to make that judgment because I have a lot of experience in life, particularly of working with people who've done wicked things. So, the psychopaths, as we used to call them at that stage. The interesting thing about Jimmy Savile is that though I wouldn't have trusted him the first time I saw him, almost everyone else did in the media and everywhere else, right? I don't know what your view of him was, but people trusted him.
I didn't.
Well, maybe not, but I could.
You know what I'm going to say to you? You know what I'm going to say to you, which you won't. I like you. Who was the Director of Public Prosecutions that didn't see through the prosecution? The Prime Minister.
It's not the issue, Jeremy. The problem is, and it is a genuine problem, is that some people do not have the moral code that kicks in.
Then they shouldn't be in public office, Sir Clive. Sir Clive, they should... Listen, we have to go, but can I just say genuinely, you are welcome back any damn time. For the facts, I want to say this, Lord Foulkes, you want to badmouth me, you badmouth me. I will listen to both sides, which is why you were asked on, and I appreciate your time. Lord Clive Soley on Talk Breakfast, 12 minutes to 10.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 10 to 10. Julia Hartley-Brewer here from 10 and Ian Collins from 1 o'clock. Kev O'Sullivan sounding great on Drive Time from 4. Couple of people going, oh, you got very arsey. I don't give a damn what people say about me. But at least answer the bloody question in terms of the people of this country aren't going to listen to that BS anymore, right? Mandelson is a dodgy man who's about to be found out, right? How many people are implicated? If you want to get personal, you better leave the show, because I'll get more personal, then we'll all get into trouble. Listen, don't forget, by the way, Sir Keir Starmer has agreed to publish key documents relating to his appointment of Lord Mandelson as ambassador to the US at some point today. I would suspect it will be after Prime Minister's Question Time, which will be blockbuster. Get the popcorn out. That's at midday with Julia Hartley-Brewer. It's going to be absolutely astonishing. Very quickly, the original Pink Lady, a Reform candidate for Epping and Thaden Boys, Orla Minahane. A very good morning to you.
Morning, how are you?
Well, apparently a certain Labour lord thinks I'm the lowest of the low. I can deal with that, though. It's fine. Go on.
I'm actually gobsmacked by what I've just listened to. But with all due respect, they're two old men, but they are everything that is wrong with this country. He said several times he was a nice man, but lacked moral compass. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I said several occasions, lacking moral compass means that you're not perhaps fit for office, to which
Correct.
he said, why did you lose your television show? Now,
Correct.
I can go absolutely into that. It took 6 years. I did nothing wrong. That's a fact. So if you want to get personal, I'll get personal. Not on air, because I would say the wrong thing. Because, like you, I would think...
Very disrespectful from
What he didn't like was he sits on his arse on £385 a day. I'm asking him to understand what people in the communities of this country, you know this, actually think about the politicians in power. The reason I got you on, Sweet, and this to me is what we should be talking about. A story that a migrant 70... who told a girl of 12 to cover her head before sexually assaulting her on the way home from school, is spared jail and got a suspended sentence. I'd love Lord Foulkes to be back on, because his government has screwed up an already desperately bad legal system. That's the sort of thing that's wrong with this country, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So there are several things here. First of all, you come into this country, you sexually assault a child, you get off. These men are coming from countries where the ultimate penalty, they will receive the ultimate penalty for murder, for sexual assault, and they think, wow, we can come to the UK, we can abuse children and get away with it. So of course they're coming here. It is a joke, an absolute joke. Now, if we look, I know we haven't got a long time, but if we look at this country now, and we look at our government, and we look at what is happening to our citizens, regardless of what your economy looks like, Jeremy, regardless of what your health service looks like, regardless of your infrastructure, if you cannot stop your country being invaded and your women and children being raped and sexually assaulted and murdered, nothing else matters.
And isn't it interesting that just because of that lord, that sort of language would be labelled 10 years ago, you'd have been labelled as a racist or far right. The fact of the matter is, whether we like it or not, there is a massive issue in this country. We had an interview earlier, I don't know if you saw it, with Samara Gill, interviewing a guy called Shahid Butt, a convicted terrorist who is standing as a councillor in Birmingham. He describes Hamas as an OK organisation, says that October the 7th was a reaction to unfairness and will probably get elected. We have to call out what's going on in this country. And whether it's the injustice of the migrant situation. I mean, get me on my favourite subject, show's nearly over. Young white British girls raped for years and still no inquiry. And we know why, because our Prime Minister is terrified of losing the Muslim vote. And I'm not going to stop saying that because it's true.
And do you know what, Jeremy? If you look at most of the things that have happened, Rhiannon White, the Midlands, Lily, the Midlands, Katie Fox, Birmingham, all of these girls are all in those constituencies where Jess Phillips sits, where all of those that Labour stronghold, and they know that if they back an inquiry into any of the illegal migrant sexual assaults and murders or the rape gang inquiry, they will lose their seats because they will lose their votes. And that is what this is about. So You know, no one gives a flying toss about these girls and about their families as long as they keep their seats and they keep on the gravy train.
Which is exactly what I was trying to say to that guy, that the British public are fed up with the gravy chain. Yes. They're fed up with the excuses of, oh, you know, the moral compass isn't good. We're fed up of politicians. That's why Nigel Farage is doing OK, because I tell this story all the time. A journalist said to him in my presence, do you drink, do you smoke, have you been married a few times, do you like a bet? He went, all four. Now tell me, let me ask you, will you tell me how you know what I'm saying? Listen, I'd love to have you on. My mother-in-law says you're fantastic, so you're very good. Reform candidate for Epping and the Thaden Boys. Hope you do well in that. Orla Minahane, thank you very much. The original Pink Lady. Almost 10 o'clock. Julia is here. Brilliant interview, Jez. Thank goodness we have people like you to speak up. Linda in Dale, or Deal even. June, bravo. And Daz, a veteran in Newquay. How out of touch is Lord Fawkes? He is a prime example of why this damn country's elite political establishment needs to change. This is Talk Breakfast. Julia Hartley-Brewer from 10. Back in 3.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me every weekend from 6 a.m. for the stories that matter to you. We talk politics, we talk news, we talk entertainment, we talk about everything that affects your life. There's only one place to start your weekend, the home of common sense. Talk Breakfast on Talk. 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every Friday, Saturday and Sunday here on the home of common sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It's 2 minutes to 10. Dave on Mandelson. 10 seconds, go.
Dave at Manchester. Oh, Mandy, you came and you gave without telling.
Taking.
Now you're going away, oh, Mandy.
Julia Hartley-Brewer, how are you?
Very well. You're a bit feisty this morning. Don't throw me out the studio.
Can I just say, people think we don't like... That was really sweet, what you just said off air. You would never repeat it on air, but thank you.
I'd never be nice to you on air, no.
Go on, say what you said off air, say it.
No, I know, because the guests having a dig at you about, oh, you got sacked from ITV. I never met you at that time. I never met you. I didn't know we were ever going to work together. And I said straight away on social media and on air, you didn't do anything wrong. And it was proven you didn't do anything wrong. I'm sorry, I will not have that about you.
Lots of people saying they're just about sums up why the House of Lords should be banished. Thank you to Stephen Scarborough, Kate in Chesterfield. What you got? Loads today, mate,
I mean,
honestly.
Where do you even start? I mean, again, possible criminal investigations. Yep. Oh, criminal investigations, definitely.